Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sports Breakdown once again. So today we are going to do the Asia Cup 2025 preview and squad analysis today. So it's my extreme pleasure of bringing Mr. Bharat Sundaresan, who's Australian sports journalist, and he works as a Cricbuzz Australian correspondent, and also he's a writer and a sports journalist in general. So thank you so much, Mr. Bharat, once again for accepting my invite to come to my YouTube channel.
No, thank you so much for the invite, Pawan. I look forward to our chat. And Asia Cup. It's upon us, isn't it? Cricket season. Every time you think you're getting a break from it, something major just jumps right out at you.
Exactly. Bharat, I just before we start on this video, I just want to know like your journey as a sports journalist because I know a bit about it, but I really don't know your full story on on you being a sports journalist because I think it must have been a very hard journey from you coming from India to Australia, to be honest, and being a sports journalist. How was that journey? To be honest, like if you
Yeah,
can share a few insights to me and the audience, if possible.
sure. No, for sure, Pawan. No, I've been a sports journalist, cricket journalist for a long time now. So I started in India in 2008, May 2008. As a writer. So I worked for a newspaper called the Indian Express. So I worked for them for 10 and a half years. Traveled the world following the Indian team, IPLs, and a lot of domestic cricket in India, the Ranji Trophy, and just was fortunate to call that a job. So I came to Australia as a cricket journalist as well, and for an Indian tour back in the day, more than 10 years ago, and really fell in love with Australia. But it was more, the move to Australia happened more as a result of my wife. So she's a special needs teacher and she wanted to do a master's, and we had to choose a cricketing country for that. So she came here before I did. So she came to Adelaide in 2017, early 2017. So she did her masters. I stayed back, and at the end of the masters, she got a job, and she was like, I think I want to bring you over as well, and let's see if I still look at you the same way." And I'm just kidding, but it was that the plan was for me to join her once she's done her masters. So we lived apart for 20 months, and then I came here, and so that's when I obviously couldn't continue working for the newspaper in India. So Cricbuzz had kind of approached me a few times before that to join them, even in India.
Hmm.
But then when I was moving here, I just said, "Look, I'm moving to Australia. Do you need an Australian correspondent?" They said yes, and I joined. And then from that point on, it just happened, man. Like, so I started doing a lot more radio and TV, maybe 1 year into my time in Australia. So I still continue writing, but I think I do more radio commentary and more TV stuff these days than writing. But it's all on par, I should say, actually. So
Okay. Cool.
yeah, so I've been doing stuff for SEN for a long time, Channel 7, do stuff for
Yeah.
the ABC as well. So that's about me. And then apart from that, just wear a lot of interesting, funny clothes, paint my nails, grow my
So
hair
you
out,
know,
and say a lot of things that most people don't say on TV or should be saying on TV.
yeah, exactly. But I love those. I love those funny remarks, and especially the tie that you wear and all that. It's really really cool. Like that's how
Thank
you
you.
should be. Like you should be unique, and you should just be yourself, right?
That's
Yeah,
true. That's
yeah,
true. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah. Did you work with Cricket for whatever at any time, or just with Cricbuzz and with Sen TV?
Uh,
Um,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, SCN Radio. No, no, it's no, I never done anything for Cricinfo directly. Like a
Okay.
few times I've written stuff which has appeared on Cricinfo, but no, Cricinfo is one company I have no links with. I have a lot of friends who
Okay.
work for Cricinfo, so yeah, and
Yeah.
because Cricbuzz is their direct rival in some ways. Like, so once I
Exactly.
joined
Yeah.
Cricbuzz, like, yeah, so it's, yeah, not
Since
yet, but never say never. Yeah.
since 2017, you've been working with Cricbuzz, right?
2018, like when I moved here. Yeah, so
Oh,
I
okay.
went from the newspaper to Cricbuzz. Yeah.
Cricbuzz. And how's that journey been with Cricbuzz? Do you like working in that job in general, or
Yeah,
how
no, I
how it
do, of
went?
course I do. Like, yeah, it's fun. Like, so yeah, so just transition from being an Indian cricket journalist to following the Indian team to following the Australian team. So I'm just fortunate. I've been to pretty much every Australian test match since I moved here. a lot of the ICC tournaments as well, or most of them. And yeah, it's different. Like when you work for a newspaper, the expectations and how you go about it is different to a website. But also, my job with Cricbuzz is dual. Like, so it's I do my work, but I also help a lot of the young writers there, like, hone their craft and get better at what they do and ideate and all of that. So I, if anything, enjoy that aspect of it as much as doing my own work, because the more you help other people grow, you grow even more. So it's been good fun.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into the main topic.
Yeah,
So it's the Asia Cup
it is.
2025. I think the 2020 format was after 3 years. So Sri Lanka won the last 2020 format, which no one predicted at all. I think because when I watched with Cricket Info also, I think I saw like many people just gave 1% chance of Sri Lanka to win the Asia Cup. I really don't know. And then at the end, like Gautam Gambhir also got heated up or whatever, being that was a really, really funny Asia Cup, but Sri Lanka did the unthinkable back then in 2022, and then India won the last Asia Cup as well. It happened in Sri Lanka, the ODI format. This time we never knew the Asia Cup will happen. But Bharat, I just
Mm,
want to have a few thoughts because we never knew this Asia Cup 2025 will happen in the first place due to these conflicts between India and
yeah.
Pakistan and all these political conflicts. But somehow it happened. But your thoughts on the Asia Cup 2025 happening in the first place for this year?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, even I was wondering, like everyone else, what will happen with the Asia Cup. I mean, that was not front and center in terms of priority of when the terrible India-Pakistan conflict was on. I mean, cricket became secondary. No, not even secondary. It didn't really matter, right? There were real
Yeah,
lives under threat, and people did lose their lives. So it's kind of terrible that it happened, but in our lifetime, we've seen, or in my lifetime, I've seen a few India-Pakistan conflicts, but nothing like this, which felt, even though I wasn't there, it felt closer to home, and with the drama around that IPL game, and in towards the end as well in Dharamshala and all of that. So yeah, at that point, you did wonder whether India and Pakistan will ever play again, or you
yeah,
kind of knew that just the everything that is at stake when India and Pakistan play each other in terms of the finances that come with it, the money that comes with it. You knew that it'll get sorted out. But if you had asked me in May if this Asia Cup would happen, and within what 4 months India and Pakistan would be playing each other, not once but potentially a few times, I would have said, nah, no chance. But it's funny how these things work, and it's happened. Like, should it be happening? I don't think I'm qualified enough to say that. But I'm not surprised when once the shock of what was happening kind of settled down, you were like, oh, of course they were going to pay. I mean, of course this is going to be settled. So I saw that even as recently as 10 days ago, the BCCI was waiting for that official clearance to come, and it did come. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how this plays out, and this will be a different kind of India Pakistan match, I feel. I mean, not the cricket aspect, but how people react to it. So I will not be surprised if there will be some people who will have some opposition to it, and there will be some of that happening behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, probably once the first ball is bowled, things will take over, especially if India win. Otherwise, it'll continue.
yeah. But Bharat, your thoughts, especially because India was supposed to host this Asia
Yeah,
Cup, but unfortunately it couldn't happen due to this conflict. So it's happening in UAE once again. And we know what happened in Asia Cup 2022, especially people were sort of like criticizing with the toss factor and especially with the
yeah.
conditions back then. And this time also it's sort of happening in September, October. So any thoughts on the Asia Cup being moved once again to UAE as a neutral venue instead of not happening in any of these countries like Bangladesh, even Sri Lanka as option because Sri Lanka was the last
Yeah,
host venue. I mean, to host this Asia Cup, but this time
yeah.
once again they had to go back to UAE. So your thoughts on Asia Cup happening in UAE?
I'm not so surprised. Like once, like yeah, like you said, there was no chance that it was going to happen in India, because even like if you see the new agreement after the last World Cup, where India Pakistan matches will happen on neutral ground anyway, so that automatically cancelled any possibility of it happening in India. Otherwise, just for one or two or probably the final is India Pakistan, 3 matches. They would have had to shift those matches elsewhere, and it would have been a bit too logistically, or it would have been a logistical nightmare. So I'm not surprised. The UAE always jumps out as the, like, if you can't play it anywhere else, go to the UAE, and especially if an Asia Cup. So I'm not so surprised, especially with the UAE team involved as well. So that kind of, you can say, in a way, makes up for it as well. So there is a host country playing. Whereas in the past, there have been times when there hasn't been a UAE team in the Asia Cup when it has happened in that region. So it's good for, like, I guess, the players in the UAE team. They can get a little more support if that does happen. I
Yeah.
don't know if UAE is playing India, how many people are going to support UAE? Maybe the Pakistanis who live there. But
Yeah.
yeah, so apart from that, not too much of a surprise that it is happening over there. What the conditions will be like it always differs in the UAE, right? And like which part of the UAE you're playing in as well.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I want to talk about the Indian squad analysis, like the Indian squad in general, because like huge question marks even for me is like, why is Shreyas Iyer not in the squad? Same with Yashasvi Jaiswal, he's at least in the reserves, but
Yeah.
Shreyas Iyer is not even in the reserves as well, not even considered in the 15-member squad. Your thoughts on both of them not being included? I know Suryakumaryadav is captain. This is the first Asia Cup that they're going without Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma.
Yeah.
Surya Kumar Yadav is going to be captaining this team. Your thoughts on this Indian team? They could be the favorites. There's a question over here in the comment section also, from side saying India can make at least 2 teams at a time. Also, so your thoughts on this Indian team this time? The squad in general, the 15-member squad.
I didn't know that there were comments happening here. Sorry, I just opened it. So,
Yeah,
and there are a lot of people. Hello, everybody.
yeah,
No, so look, Shreyas Iyer is a curious omission, isn't he? Like, because of the IPL that he had, and he's had an interesting time in the last couple of years, Shreyas, in terms of selectors, and like, there was a time with the contract. There was even some talk that he should have been in the Test squad to Australia earlier in the year, or to England. And I think, what was it, Ajit Agarkar or one of the selectors who said it's not his fault, it's not our fault either.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
just to start with, like, when you look at India and T20 cricket, just because of the IPL, in the last few years, so many talents. Just every time there's an IPL that happens, you get at least 4 or 5 players and different types, like whether it's batters, bowlers, or spinners, who just jump at you and, like, kind of demand selection. And the likes of Tilak Verma just come in and make a splash immediately. So it's not the easiest time to be a batter in T20 cricket in India because of the competition for spots. But and if anything, before the squad is announced, I read a few articles which said that Shubman Gill might be left out as well. So despite having
yeah,
just been named captain, test captain, and then I read the fact that he's been picked also as a vice captain, that this is a push towards him taking over as all format captain. And India has been one team, when you look at the bigger teams, who have preferred having one captain across formats as far as possible, as much as they can.
yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they go down that road as well. But Shreyas is a big, what he has, strike rate of 175,
Hmm.
nearly 600 runs, and also the way he led Punjab, under Ricky Ponting and Brad Haddon, and took them very deep in the tournament. So he is a mix, but it seems to be happening to him quite a bit of late, isn't it? So
Yeah.
not sure where he fits in that sense. I can't see him not. He is a fixture in the 50-over format, but when it comes to
Yeah.
T20 cricket and Test cricket, he seems to be in and out. But just with T20 cricket, I mean, you can look at it in 2 ways. One, you can just come up with 15 different reasons why it's unfair on him, but then you can also look at it the other way and go, it's such heavy competition, like, who do you know, and what roles, like, when you look at that middle order, where does he fit in, right? Like, so that's another question to be asked.
Yeah.
And so it's a big miss. And he is not getting any younger. I mean, he's not old, but he's at that he's in that middling phase of his career, isn't he? But but he probably just has to look at someone like KL Rahul, who kind of what he's done once he hit that 29, 30, 31 age, and the consistency is found in other formats. So I think there's always a scope back for him in that sense. But interesting selection indeed.
Mm. I just want to take some questions from the comment section. This is
Sure.
related. Rohan here says, by when do you see Gill as full-time 2020 captain?
Good question, Rohan. I guess after the T20 World Cup, I don't see them changing anything before that T20 World Cup, right? And everything is from this point on is about that World Cup. So again, if you are Shreyas, you are looking at this non-selection and going, does this mean I'm not going to feature in that World Cup? Possibly, because there's no IPL between now and then. There'll be the Syed Mushtaq Ali, I'm sure, and India will play a few more T20s. They have 5 coming up in Australia next month or towards the end of next month. So I'm looking forward to those here. But no, I don't see it happening before the World Cup for sure. And then you also wonder how long Surya has left after that. And that's the kind of intrigue around T20I cricket as well. And unlike 50 over cricket, because these World Cups come so quickly. And yeah, you say 2 years, but depending on where they are played and what time of the year, it could even be as let's say 16 months between two T20 World Cups. So looking forward to seeing how that transition happens. But yeah, I think by mid next year, probably Shubman Gill will be all three or all format captain.
Definitely. But Bharat, coming to the Indian squad once again, I have huge question marks over like this top order, like especially the middle order, number 3, number 4, because you have Shubman Gill, you have Sanju Samson, and then you have Abhishek Sharma, and there's huge competition between Tilak Verma. So I think one of them will have to be excluded in this playing 11, because Shubman Gill is vice captain right now, and you have
Yeah,
Sanju Samson who scored hundreds, I think, in the
yeah.
past series, as if I'm not mistaken. And then you have Abhishek Sharma, who's been performing really well in IPL as well, and also Tilak Verma. So, how do you see the playing 11 sort of going, Bharat, is especially in this 15-member squad? Because it's really really competitive right now, especially this
Hmm.
15-member squad, and India is like sort of the team to beat also. So how do you see the batting composition of this playing 11, especially in for India?
I think the one thing that India have done so well in T20 cricket in the recent past, I mean, apart from being World Cup champions, is just how they've just slotted different players into positions and it just clicked. What they've won 16 out of 20 games now, the previous 20 games. So I think from what I've been reading and what the way I see it play out, they might have to end up with Abhishek Sharma and Shubman Gill opening so that they can slot. I mean, Tilak Verma is not going anywhere. I think he's going to play, right? Like, so it's a case of Sanju Samson, how they fit him in. But there's so much flexibility with them as well. So Abhishek is going to open, and then probably Surya comes in at what, 4 maybe? Yeah. So in that position, that's what generally where you see him in for the Indian team. And I'm personally quite excited about Abhishek Sharma and Shubman Gill opening because of just their relationship, right? Going back
Mm.
in time, I remember one of the last things I did before leaving India was interview both of them back to back before they left for the under 19 World Cup. This is 2018, I think. And just their friendship and the bonhomie between the two, and it's continued on ever since, hasn't it? So it'll be like a nice feel good story for those two, like childhood friends opening the batting together for India. They'll just have a good ring to it. But Abhishek has been and I honestly remember thinking 2018 that he will be the big breakout star from that 2009. Sorry, from the under 19 World Cup. It's taken him a while, just in terms of just the way he carried himself. Even back then, there was this super confidence about him, and now we are seeing it really blossom on the big stage. So those two should open. It'll be a question of then what happens to Sanju, where he fits in, because then you have Tilak Verma and Suryakumaradav, and then after that you're into the all-rounders, aren't you? So yeah, so I think it'll be interesting. Do they drop Sanju Samson to 5? Because and I'm again a big fan of Jitesh Sharma as well. So but playing him ahead of Sanju Samson, you wonder, like, yeah, but then because he's so spoiled, and for me the most flexible cricketer or most versatile cricketer in this Indian team for a while has been Akshar Patel. Like, you can just push him to number 3, you can push him to number 5. Like, he batted in New York or Long Island, wasn't it? And there's obviously his bowling, but as a batter, he can just go up and down. So there's a lot of flexibility after four. But
Yeah.
I think that's how I'll see the top four. That's how I see the top four being.
Don't you see like Tilak Verma batting at number 5 perhaps and pushing in Sanju Samson at number 3?
It
Or would
could
you?
they could swap. Yeah, it is possible. Yeah, they could swap the two, but it's because Tilak Verma has shown that ability to make hundreds. Um, I don't know. Like I would personally want him in that top four somewhere. But
uh,
yeah, I think they might do that as well. Yeah, that fits. But I can't see Gill not opening and fitting in not as an opener in this team.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Bharat, your thoughts on the bowling, especially and the spinners, because the bowling attack looks also really strong, especially Arshdeep
Mm,
Singh, Jasprit Bumrah, Harshit, Kuldeep, Varun. Your thoughts, especially you think they'll go with two spinners along with Aksha Patel right now? So they have Kuldeep and Varun. Do you see that happening, especially in UAE conditions? Especially we saw last time even spin versus factor in these UAE pitches. Do you see both Kuldeep and Varun playing, or do you see like only one spinner playing with Aksha? How do you see like
mm.
does it depend on the conditions? Will they go with that extra spinner, or how do you see that going along?
No, I think they'll play both because you have the advantage of Hardik as well. Shivam Dubey, if he does play, he's been bowling the NCA nets, and his bowling's come through. If he plays, I don't know whether he'll fit in, but I think it'll make sense on those pitches to play all three because they three spinners who play three different roles as well, right? Like they can bowl at different stages of the innings as well. But when you have Jasprit Bumrah and Arshdeep Singh, that's half the job done for you, right? Like yeah, there'll be the 4 overs, and it's as cliched as it sounds. You are
Mm.
almost like thinking about 16 overs and then four of Bumrah. But
Yep.
Arshdeep is just, I mean, his development as a bowler, as a leader in this Indian team in white ball cricket has been fabulous to watch. And so I think it is probably you can stick your neck out and say probably the best T20 bowling attack right now in world cricket. Like, any attack with Bumrah and it is great. And then you have Arshdeep, then you have Kuldeep, poor
Mm.
Kuldeep, who doesn't get to play in all formats when probably he's bowling as well as he ever has in his career. So no, I think with they should or they will go in with Bumrah and Arshdeep and the other two spinners, and then you have Hardik and everyone else to chip in as well.
Yeah. Also, Bharat, your thoughts on Hardik Pandya? Because I mean, yes, he got injured back in Asia Cup 2018. Then he had to rehab, and then he played really well in IPL, especially being the Gujarat Titans captain. They won the IPL that season itself, and then came to Mumbai Indians when he got that offer, and he's also performing as well over there. Yes, we have seen glimpses here and there. He's not been that consistent of the player that he was. He definitely has that potential of being the best
Hmm.
all rounder. Yes, he may still be, but your thoughts, especially on Hardik Pandya, because it's been a bit of a difficult journey in the last few years, especially with that with the injury. Then the way that he came back also was
Yeah.
really good. But your thoughts in general of Hardik Pandya?
I'm personally a big fan of Hardik in terms of how he's been able to evolve over the years, right? I mean, you think back to the Hardik that I first covered in Mumbai when he started playing in the IPL. It was a very different Hardik to the one that you see now. I remember doing a big interview with him in 2017 before the Champions Trophy. I remember exactly where I was sat near the pool and at the Trident, and even him telling me about his taste in music and all of that. It was a very different Hardik. It was almost felt like finding himself as a person first before his cricket before he started thinking about his cricket.
Yeah,
But from that Hardik to the one that you have now, I think so much more mature. He loves being that man in the big moment. We saw it in the final last year, but I think his bowling's just after all those injuries, because there was that fear that I mean there was talk that the main injury happened when he was really trying to become consistently quick, right? Consistently
yeah,
bowl in the 140s. During just before that Australia tour of 2020, the famous one, the COVID one. But then from there to more injuries and lack of or drop in form and all of that. I think every time Hardik Pandya has doing well with the ball. I think he's one of those classic old cliche all rounders, right? And he's doing well with the ball. He's doing well with the bat as well. So I think he needs both of that going hand in hand. So I for there was a period where I really did think he would have a breakthrough Test career. Well, clearly it's not. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. That's in the rear view. But yeah, he's such a, again, like with Akshar Patel and Hardik, you just have two guys who can play multiple roles within any T20 team. And you look at T20 teams around the world, those are the kind of cricketers they're trying to get more and more out of. That's the direction that we're heading in anyway.
Yeah. One more question before I go into the next team. Your thoughts on the inclusion of Shivam Dube, because a lot of people are questioning on his inclusion, because yes, he's been performing bits and here with CSK. I
Hmm.
know he has that potential also, especially with the bat. He can bowl medium pace as well, but a lot of people are questioning on his place in the squad. Does he deserve it or not? But your thoughts on his inclusion, like does he actually deserve to be in this Asia Cup squad? Like your thoughts in general on Shivam Dube in general?
I'm never a big fan of the word deserve. I don't think anyone deserves anything. Like you just,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
you get picked or you don't. But
yeah,
no, he's an interesting cricketer, isn't he? Like I remember the first time I saw him at international level, I wasn't sure what to make of him. It was in New Zealand in early 2020.
yeah,
But clearly he's become like a big hitting, killer of spin bowling, hasn't he? And then
yeah,
often
yeah,
teams have gone to seam bowling whenever he's come out to bat, or the matchups that they talk about so much in the short format or the shortest format these days. So um, I think if he's not bowling with the batting firepower India do have these days, you do wonder if they need someone like him in the side, which is why I can't think of him as being an automatic selection in the playing 11. So
yeah,
maybe they have him just as that other all rounder. And I was speaking to someone the other day about T20 cricket. I mean, it's changed so much where you look at the Australian middle order right now. Everybody's 6 feet five and everybody hits a big ball. So, and that's his Shivam Dube is not 6 feet five, but he's a big guy who hits a big ball. And uh, the way T20 cricket's gone, there is that, there were the problem solvers who had a role to play in T20 cricket for a long time. Like guys would
yeah,
find ways, like the Steve Smiths of the world. Now it
yeah,
seems like more and more of these guys, the Tim Davids of the world, seem to be in vogue. And Shivam Dube is in that category. So I'm not saying he's as good as Tim David, but he's in that conversation, isn't he? So
mm,
maybe when you have someone like him, you want to make the most of him, like for however long he is in.
yeah.
So maybe that's why they're picked. But I still don't think just because he's been picked for this that he'll be in that World Cup squad. He'll need a couple of decent performances before we get to that point.
Yeah. All right, Bharat, let's go into the dark horses of this Asia Cup, because Afghanistan were the
Yeah.
semi-finalists of this 2020 World Cup. They've not been given that much of a chance to win the Asia Cup this time, but they're sort of a very interesting group, to be honest. Like, they far exceeded my expectations as well, the way that they played in the 2020 World Cup last year.
Mm,
Any thoughts on this Afghan group? Because they're a really interesting team, to be honest. The way they didn't perform as best like in the last Asia Cup, I felt like Afghanistan could have gone a long way,
mm,
but they didn't. But your thoughts on this team led by Rashid Khan? Because you have superstars, global superstars in Rashid Khan, Gurbaz, they have Mohammad Sai, all these players, even they have Mohammad Nabi. They have so much experience in
mm.
their team right now. And when it comes to bowling, they have Mujib, Noor Ahmed, Faruqi, Naveen Al Haq. So your thoughts on this Afghanistan team, to be honest?
They just seem like a team who need that one big win, don't they? Like a big trophy win, like whether it's in a World Cup or an Asia Cup. Because all those names that you just mentioned there, um, they play a lot of them have played more T20 cricket than a lot of people in that Indian team. Like even though they are the biggest stars, they are because of just the number of leagues that they play cricket in, and often, um, that's the thing with the shortest formats is when you have players like Rashid and Nabi and everyone, Gurbaz, there is probably no T20 scenario that they haven't seen, right? Like they haven't really come across. So far, sadly, what we have seen in the last 2 years, whether it's that 2023 50 over World Cup, that famous match in Bombay where Glenn Maxwell made the double hundred, and they should have won. And if they'd won that game, in all likelihood, they would have gone all the way into the second half. And last year, I was there for that one. And last year, the semi-final was, it was one of those bad mornings, bad in 5-6 overs they had, and they were blown away by South Africa. I remember
Yeah.
making the long trip to the Brian Lara Stadium in Trinidad, and the game was over before you even could say hello. It was that quick. But you felt for them because that big win against Australia really felt like that was a moment in time. They got one back for the Bombay defeat, but in the other format, and there you felt like this could be the big thing. At times, whether you're an Afghanistan fan or not, you feel frustrated that they're so good. You look at that playing 11 or the squad, and they should be winning more titles, right? The
Exactly.
experience that they have, the quality, and not just the names that you mentioned, Rasuli, and these guys are so good to watch when they are in full flow. And I'm a big fan of Azmatullah Omarzai. Like
Mm.
Hardik Pandya and Akshar Patel, he does so many things right for that Afghanistan team or any team that he gets to play for around the world. So that breakthrough, you just feel like it's around the corner, it's around the corner. You see it with teams in other sport as well, right? Like you're like, oh, if only they can win it once. And you will love this example. Almost like the Sri Lanka from 1996, right? The Sri
Mm.
Lanka, funnily enough, became good and then they just won the World Cup immediately. So it wasn't like they had to go through a few World Cups where they shone and then they won. Obviously, the opportunities were less then. There was only 50 over cricket.
Yeah.
So it's not like they threatened to do something special in the 92 World Cup and then won the 96 World Cup. But
Mm.
they started looking good around 95, 96 and then just won the World Cup. And then the whole ecosystem changed for Sri Lanka cricket. So
Exactly.
I do hope that maybe this is the Asia Cup that they win. But they need something. They need that one big trophy so that they can make the most of this amazing generation of cricketers that they have right now. There are a lot of young talents coming through, but you just feel like Rashid and Nabi. I don't know. Otherwise, Nabi will keep playing till he's 60. We need to give him that World Cup once. So, yeah. So I think every tournament they'll go in, like you said, dark horses. Yes, but I think they're more than dark horses. I think for me, they start as co-favorites for any Asia Cup.
Mm.
And look, are they the second best team in Asia? It always, brings a
Yes,
lot of
yes.
hate from Sri Lankan and Pakistani fans in particular, and even some Bangladeshi fans. But it's tough to argue. But it's tough to argue on and say that they are because they haven't won anything.
Yeah.
If they win this Asia Cup, then whether you're a Sri Lankan fan or Pakistan fan, I'm sorry, but they are the
Yeah.
second best team, right? But so they
Absolutely.
need to do that to get there.
Yeah. But how do you see the rise of Afghanistan cricket, especially because they started in 2009, and the way from fourth division to come to this stage right now to the top in terms of rankings or whatever, and especially coming to a 2020 World Cup in 2024, how do you see that evolution of Afghanistan cricket within 15 years? Because they didn't even have proper stadiums to play. They had to
Yeah.
always play either in India or UAE or in Pakistan in certain times, but they couldn't, especially with the political tensions. But the rise of Afghanistan cricket in 15 years, how do you see that within Afghanistan cricket in general?
I think it's one of the more unique stories in sport, where there's so much. They're almost like two Afghanistan, right? There's Afghanistan, the country, and then there's Afghanistan, the cricket team, and there's so much politically that's changed in that time in Afghanistan, like
Yeah.
who's in power and who's running the country, and just the conditions for people living there as well has changed dramatically. But the cricket team is almost risen parallelly to it, and in some ways, yes, they're connected, but in other ways they are not connected. And I think they've benefited from the era that they've come onto the scene in as well. I mean, the fact that um, in 2009 is when they had that big breakthrough and they started playing high level cricket, like you mentioned, but that also coincides with the rise of T20 league cricket. So a lot of these cricketers who we just mentioned have had the ability to go around the world and hone their craft and get better and better and better at short form cricket, rather than just have to depend on international cricket. Because in an alternate universe, that Kenyan team who we all loved, right? I was a big fan of that Kenyan team with Odoyo and Odumbe and Tikolo and all those guys. I'm not saying they were as talented as the Afghanistan team now. But say if they had started in 2009, who knows, right? Like they would have
Mm.
got the same opportunities that Afghanistan have now in a different scenario. So I think so they've grown with the growth of cricket. These days, there's always so much talk of doomsaying around world cricket and what's happening with the economics and all of that. Yes, that's true. On one hand, there are things to be worried about, but then you see a success story like the Afghanistan cricket team, who have benefited the most from the changing climes in terms of league cricket, more and more money away from international cricket that can be made, and they, as a result, they become that team, the probably the most threatening team at the start of any tournament that you get into, and you'll see the same thing happening with them if they do get to play more and more Test cricket. So yeah, so it's good. It's good to see what's happened with them. But I keep going back to the same where I started. They needed one title, like one thing to really show for it, and then probably just take off, because it it's really not the skills that have come under question, right? It's that temperament in the big moments. The Wankhede game against Glenn Maxwell's and co, and the World Cup semi-final last year against South Africa.
Exactly. I want to take this question before we go into the next team. Rohan here says Gazam for the guy to watch out with Noor, especially AM Gazam for the way that he's performing, especially in leagues, especially in SA20
Yeah.
MLC is really, really interesting. Your thoughts on this player, to be honest?
Yeah, oh yeah, I think in some ways he's kind of overtaken Noor, right? Like it just feels like it. Like, and we're gonna see so many of these unique special talents who are gonna come from that ecosystem in Afghanistan cricket. No, and you're right. I mean, there are so many in this team to watch out for. I mentioned Rasuli earlier, but there are those guys who are there, like and it almost, you can compare it with some of those soccer teams back in the day in World Cups. Like they would have the established players, World Cup after World Cup after World Cup. They would play like 4 or 5 World Cups back to back, and then they would have like a couple of really exciting emerging stars will come in. I mean, I can think of from the top of my head, like even the Danish soccer team. This is before your time, Pawan, in the 1990s. Like they had like some great players, but then they just didn't win anything major on a global stage. They did Europe in Europe, but so yeah, I think that's what it is. Just take that one win, man. Once that big win comes, then then it'll just take off.
Yeah. Let's go into Sri Lanka, Bharat, because this team, I really don't know my country as well, but they've only won 5 2020s out of 16. They're right now playing a series against Zimbabwe in the 2020 series before the Asia Cup. Very, very interesting team, to be honest. They won the last edition, the 2020 edition of the Asia Cup. No one expected them to win, but they won somehow. This time, I really don't know what's going to happen to this Sri Lankan team, but your thoughts in general of Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan team in general, the way that they're performing right now. What are your expectations of this team? Because they did win the Asia Cup 3 years ago. No one expected them to win, but they went to the finals the next year and played against India and got out for 55 and humiliated themselves in that finals. But this, but this year, what do you think this Sri Lankan team has? To be honest.
Um, Look, I'm generally the last person who'll say anything slightly pessimistic about anyone or anything, but Sri
Yeah.
Lanka and T20 cricket power, it almost feels like, and you look at that team, you pretty much know all of them. Like, it's a very familiar team. And I've been fortunate to go to Sri Lanka twice now in the last 3 years, and not see them do too well in T20 cricket. But their one-day cricket seems to be going well at a time. They don't always qualify for the big tournaments, sadly. But they're the 2 games they played against Australia under odd circumstances, yes. But before the Champions Trophy, or and Test cricket, they'll have their moments. But it almost feels like it hasn't completely, the train hasn't completely left the station. It almost feels like T20 cricket is leaving them behind. It's like already left them. They're like, it's almost, imagine them like the train's still there, slowly beginning to move away from the platform, and the Sri Lankan team is like running but just not getting there. And it's at a crucial time, because a lot of those players have played in a lot of T20 tournaments, or like for Sri Lanka, there is in World Cups, or or even Asia Cups. So after
Mm.
2022, there's not much to like. Yeah, I mean, look at the experience in that team, right? Like you still have Kusal Pereira playing. When Dushmanta Chamira, I heard about how they kept him on in cotton wool in 2022 when we went there, or I went there for the Test series. He didn't play the T20. He didn't play the Test series because they said they wanted him for the T20 World Cup. So they're always resting him for this or the other, but then he
Yeah.
doesn't play. Yeah, so it's he's an interesting cricketer. But in terms of bowling, whether it's Patirana or Tikshana, Saranga is back, and
Mm.
Velala gave the first time I saw him in 2022, I felt I became a big fan. He hasn't really done what I thought he would. I thought he'd be that next big Sri
Yeah.
Lankan spinner, but
Mm.
he hasn't really risen to that level. I see my old friend Chamika Karunaratne, who I just refer to as Star Boy, is back. Like I just randomly happened in an elevator in Sri Lanka. I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that. But like, yeah, so he's back. So there are these guys, and Dashun Shanaka is still around.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of newish names that not I haven't heard too much about.
Yeah.
Mainly, it's like one of those kind of teams that you know what to expect from. But yeah, like that Rex stat that you just mentioned there, what 5 wins in the
In
last
16.
16.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of puts my analogy into perspective, right? Like the whole train leaving and them catching up. Uh, and at a time when a lot of these batting lineups are filled with players who can just hit a lot of sixes. Like look at how and Australia have transitioned, they've transformed their approach to T20 cricket,
Mm.
even in the last 6 7 months, where they've just decided we'll have these big guys. As if Vince McMahon is booking world title things in the WWE in the early 90s, get all the big guys and give
Yeah.
them free reign to go and hit big sixes. But Sri
Yeah.
Lanka, one team, and Pakistan are not too far behind from them, who just
Yeah.
feel like they're kind of still stuck playing T20 cricket from 5 years ago, if that makes sense, and
Mm.
they just
Yeah.
haven't taken that next step up. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like I don't follow domestic cricket in Sri Lanka too well.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are those guys emerging who
Yeah.
can do
There
that.
are. Yeah.
Probably not.
But they're not
So
given the
because
chance. That's the
yeah,
problem. There's so many good young players, but the problem is like they go back to experience because I think they don't want to experiment too much before the 2020 World Cup. So there are players that are in store. That's why they're experimenting them in the Zimbabwe series going on, but
yeah,
they are not including them in the 2020 World Cup because they haven't played much matches. So I think
yeah,
after 2020 World Cup in 2026, they're going to take the like the precautions, like going to give them the chance to play or whatever, and then make these players like Kusal Pereira and Shanaka to retire. That's what I see what's going on, but they don't want
yeah,
to take that risk because right now we have a 2020 World Cup coming up and with the Asia Cup as well. So that's why the youngsters are not being included in the Asia Cup squad right now,
yeah. No, but
unfortunately.
it's this an interesting point. I mean, if that is the case, or even if that's not the case,
Yeah,
um like the fact that it sounds like a very Sri Lankan thing to do in terms of Sri Lankan cricket, like yeah, because the only reason they were winning a lot in the 90s and the early 2000s, they were taking risks. They were the risk takers of the world, if you think
yeah,
about it, in terms of selection and gambles with Jaiswal opening or Kaluvitarana opening, all those things that they did
exactly.
worked out because they were the risk takers. And I think the best way to describe the core of the Sri Lankan T20 team is they're getting a lot of very good 50 over cricketers to play T20 cricket, because I think
Mm,
Asalanka and Nisanka are terrific one day players. They're really good to watch. Yeah, Asalanka, in particular, in the middle, the consistency that he's brought. And Nisanka does well in Test cricket as well. The 100 he made in
yeah,
England. Was it last year? This year? Last year, wasn't it? Yeah, it's tough,
yeah,
difficult to
yeah,
keep track. But it just feels like they constantly, and Pakistan are guilty of it as well, and we'll talk about Pakistan ahead
yeah,
later, but just a lot of good 50 over cricketers. It used to happen back in, even till 7 8 years ago, it was a formula that worked at times. India used to be guilty of that, getting all their best one day players to play T20 cricket. I think it's
yeah,
moved on from that. Like, yeah, so if there are these cricketers that you mentioned who are playing in Zimbabwe, there's no point waiting till the World Cup is over because you're
yeah,
also co-hosting the World Cup. If you want to make an
exactly.
impact, this is it. Like, yeah,
And it's a best chance for Sri Lanka also to prove, like in the 2020 World Cup. So I don't know why they're waiting right now, but yeah, Bharat. But still, yeah, I also have questions like on the Sri Lankan team, especially. I think take some comments on the comment section. Rohani says Asalanka has been most promising at 5 consistently. Yeah.
yeah, he
Um,
has.
But Bharat, I've heard this from Jared Kimber as well. I saw like his video also, like Sri Lanka playing so many ODI matches. Like even I have the question mark as well. Like yes, I understand they missed out. They had to go for qualifiers in the last ODI
Mm,
World Cup, and I feel like that could be a reason why they're trying to play more ODI cricket. But against Zimbabwe, you could have easily played 5 2020 matches instead of having three ODIs and three 2020s. But
yeah.
why do you think like Sri Lanka is playing so many ODI? Because it's a from a Sri Lankan, I also don't understand like why they're number 4 in the rankings right now. They don't have to be so worried about the next ODI World Cup, but what's in it with Sri Lanka and ODI cricket? To be honest, like it's a huge question mark. Instead of playing 2020 matches when there's a 2020 World Cup or Asia Cup coming up, they're playing three ODI matches against Zimbabwe and so many, even with Bangladesh as well. So I don't get it, to be honest.
Firstly, Sri Lanka play a lot against Bangladesh, don't they? It
Yeah.
almost feels like every time you look, they're playing against each other. Maybe they're playing one in between the two Zimbabwe matches as well. Who knows? But
Yeah.
no, I mean, my stupidity aside, you're right. I guess the formatting and scheduling always comes down to a lot more things than just um, that, right? Like whether it's about rankings or ratings, I'm sure there's more to it than that. But it does make, I think it's more in terms of selection though. Like, you know what, you can always try out in these kinds of bilateral ODI series which don't count for much. You can always try out in that case a few players you think are promising in T20 format, or young players, that is. You can just throw them into 50 over cricket as well, or you can do it the other way around as well. If you think they can be good at two formats, blood them into either of the formats, and you can still, because there are teams who will play an ODI series during like, you know, when you're 6 7 months out from a T20 World Cup, but
Yep.
focus more on the T20 side of it, you know, if that
Mm.
makes sense. So when we've seen all of that happen, or the other way around as well, I mean, how England go to New Zealand for a few ODIs, I think, before the Ashes, there'll be a few test players there just to get acclimatized to the time zone, and just it's not test cricket, but at least 50 over cricket. So just get used to this part of the world. So those things happen. So you can always mix and match. So it's not really about the format you play. It's more about how you play it, and more importantly, who plays in it for you. So I think, yeah, and it, you know, the big selection for Sri Lanka has been bringing back a few players that we all know about. So hopefully they do give those newer players a chance, because that's the Sri Lanka that we were used to. At least I was
Yeah.
used to when I was growing up.
Also, I want to ask on Kamindu Mendis, Bharat, because I think Kamindu has been performing so well in Test cricket or whatever. Now he's been playing as all format. He's playing in 2020s as well, especially number 4. But I really don't know why they're changing his position from number 4, number 6. Even the first 2020, when I was watching between Sri Lanka versus Zimbabwe, he's playing at number 6. When this guy played for IPL, he played for Sunrisers Hyderabad, and he was given that number. I
Mm.
think he played at number 6, number 5. I can't really remember the position he played, but he did play until he got that injury.
Mm.
And then he didn't play the IPL anymore. He played 5 matches. But your thoughts on Kamindu Mendis in general?
Yeah, we were so excited this year when, because he made his test debut in 2022. So when Australia was there, so we got a first-hand view of him. But then he just went and won over the world in Test cricket. All those runs he made. And this year, like what earlier this year when we were there for the two tests, there was a lot of excitement around him. Didn't really do as well as we expected him to, but you're right. And then he just he's worked on his T20 game as well, right? He has the skills to play all formats, but he worked on his skills as well. But it still feels like when you look at him, he's still finding his feet in white ball cricket. Like, you know, he's still figuring out what his main strengths are. Like, he has that power game. When he wants to, he can turn it on. But it can be challenging in a team like this, where, like I said, everybody's trying to kind of learn T20 cricket on the go, it feels like. And that's like an outside opinion. Maybe
Mm.
that's not the case, but when I look at the Sri Lankan team, it always feels like they're always trying to catch up, and not just as a team, but individually as well, rather than be setting the tone. I mean, like West Indies set the tone for T20 cricket, then India and Australia have done that as well. England did that for a brief period. Now clearly their focus is elsewhere. So and like I keep going back to Sri Lanka in the 90s, the reason is they set the tone for one day cricket, and then everybody else had to follow. right?
Yeah.
But that was a different era. Things have changed, circumstances have changed. Maybe Sri Lanka does not have the kind of power hitters you need to succeed in T20, or maybe they'll have to go through that 5-6 year period where they focus on developing them, and then we'll see Sri Lanka really emerge in 2030 as a great or a good T20 team. But you can only do that if you keep, if you just stick to the same players over and over again who have failed you or who have not really taken this format to the next level. You'll just
Yeah.
stay where you are, and the train will just go away.
Yeah. Also, I want to ask on Matisha Patirano because he's like a huge craze in CSK and India, and I don't know, he performs in IPL somehow or the other with Dhoni behind the stumps. He somehow keeps on delivering. He performs in the IPL, but when it comes to Sri Lanka cricket, he's a totally different cricketer. I do not know. He changed his action, if I'm not mistaken, 1 year back, and he was not effective in IPL this year because he changed that action a bit. But he's come back to his old action, and that's why he's been picked in the Asia Cup squad. But your thoughts on Matisha Patiran, because he was not even scouted by the Sri Lankan selectors or whatever before.
Yeah.
He was scouted by IPL and CSK scouts before getting into CSK, and that's where he got the attention of even the Sri Lanka cricket selectors. So your thoughts on Matisha Patiran and the encounters that you had with him? Have you like interviewed him also
No,
when?
he. By the time he started playing IPL, I had already moved out of India. So no,
Okay.
I have seen him bowl. Of course, I have, but I think maybe there are two solutions, right? A, I don't know if Sri Lanka can afford him. Get MS Dhoni somehow to be part of the camp, or
Yeah.
if you can get a hologram of MS Dhoni where the Sri Lankan wicketkeeper is. Or the other thing is if you can get a special allowance or permission from the ICC and the ACC to let Patirana play in wear yellow jersey when he's bowling, yeah, because that seems to bring out the best in him, right? But no,
Yeah.
look, he still looks like a generational talent in T20 cricket, right? With this the consistency he has in the depth, and or even in the middle phases where even that's another change I've seen in T20 cricket, where rather than the spinners bowling in the middle overs, often those kinds of fast bowlers with a lot of variety, the Yorkers, who break the game, right? Who come and
Yeah.
break the game, take 2-3 wickets, or bowl a couple of tight overs. So
Mm.
Patirana can bowl at different stages, and especially the eighth, ninth over onwards, he can just go and bowl out at times as well, the 4 overs. So um, you haven't seen the best of him in Sri Lanka, and it's again, I don't know whether it's the setup there, whether and he's a unique story in that sense, right? Like you said, he was
Yeah.
scouted elsewhere, and I remember a few years ago, MS Dhoni being asked at a press conference about him, and MS Dhoni had a say on how Sri Lanka should use him, and I did think. Then I heard that going like, I wonder how that goes down in Sri Lanka. In former Indian captain and IPL captain is going to have a say on what a Sri
Exactly.
Lankan cricketer's future is. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's the way the world has moved on. But he's so young as well, right? Like he was scouted so
Mm.
young. That's the beauty of being scouted young or brought in young as a cricketer, or as an athlete. You just always have that second or third chance to evolve and transform and mature and have more chapters in your career than someone who starts in their mid 20s or late 20s. So no, I don't think we've seen we no I don't think we definitely have not seen the best of Patirana and Sri Lanka colors. So hopefully we that happens, and uh, probably give him more responsibility. Maybe say like, you're the guy who takes us to that next level, and make the most of. So he might be young, but in some ways he's got more experience and wisdom of T20 cricket than some of these guys. Like he plays in the IPL, he's worked so closely with MS Dhoni and Stephen Fleming, and when I think maybe others as well, like whoever the senior players over there, where Faf was there and Bravo was there as bowling coach and all of that. So maybe it's
Yeah.
time he brings all of that to him, and I think that can happen if he's and with some players, you need that, right? Just he's young, but give him the responsibility, and not. I'm not saying make him captain, but say you're the leader of this bowling attack. That's what, like, for someone like Arshdeep Singh, that's happened to him in Punjab. They've given him that freedom to be the leader of the bowling attack, and these young men just grow up even faster. So maybe that's what needs to be done. Something drastic needs to be done. Maybe the yellow jersey will work.
Yeah, but with Pathiran also, because I think he's very closely monitored by Lasit Malinga, and then Lasit Malinga told him to play red ball cricket, and he's been listening to Lasit Malinga by playing now first class cricket, which he
Yeah.
has never done, because Dhoni has told him not to play red,
Yeah.
first class cricket or red ball or whatever. But Lasit Malinga, he's been listening to Lasit Malinga. Lasit Malinga has been telling him to bowl, like play first class cricket, because I think Malinga was evolved by playing first
He
class
did.
cricket, and he was first noticed by test cricket, and then obviously he went into limited overs or whatever, and he stopped test cricket due to injuries or whatever. But both of them have that similar action or whatever, and Lasit Malinga was suffered a lot with injuries or whatever, had a lot of setbacks, but still is very successful with IPL or whatever, with Mumbai Indians, and ended up picking up 170 wickets at the end of the day for MI and with IPL. So your thoughts on Pathiran, and he, especially his workload also, do you think like he can last, like sustain to his 30s or whatever? How do you see with his action or whatever
Hmm.
in general?
I think because of just the understanding around the biomechanics and just how technology has grown in terms of sports science and the SNC stuff, the strength and conditioning things. Fast bowlers will, like I was speaking to a couple of the Australian fast bowlers the other day in Brisbane, and like both of them said, like it's just um, prolonged so many careers, right? Like there was a time by the time you got to your 30s, if you're a fast bowler, you're already thinking of the end. But I think there's no reason, whatever action you bowl with, for you to have a short career with all the science around, and that's only going to get enhanced more and more and more. I think bowling actions and mechanics have also, now people who understand these things understand it better than they used to back in the day.
Yeah,
I think, but also you wonder where the motivation for him to play tests more and more test cricket comes from as well, because even Malinga's era of Sri Lanka cricket is different to now. Sri Lanka don't play the like amount of Test cricket they used to back in the mid 2000s when he made Malinga made his debut. But he played 4 or 5 years of Test cricket. In that period, they were playing quite a bit. They're playing everywhere. So
mm,
that's not happening. So the motivation for what Patirana will gain from playing a lot of red ball cricket, you wonder, when he's clearly got these special skills to be successful in the other formats. So and in a country where, like I said earlier, they are prone to rest their fast bowlers for special formats, like Chamira I mentioned earlier. So it's happened before.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, my little understanding of Sri Lankan cricket from my times that I've been there, I wouldn't see too much to gain from Patirana if it is affecting his other format, his
Yeah.
strength. There's nothing out of that because of just the amount of Test cricket or lack thereof that Sri Lanka play these days.
Yeah, I just want to take some question from the YouTube from other people, and it's coming back to Indian cricket. Sorry for that, but it's a very
That's
interesting
okay.
question. Ashwini here says, Bharat, I have a question. How India can use Bumrah's services in future should he needs to quit one format of the game to prolong his red ball career?
I think that'll happen. We saw Mitch Stark would retire from T20 cricket 3 days ago, and they will, like modern day players, especially the elite ones, will drop one format at a time. Um, and in Bumrah's case, in particular, I think he'll have a big say on his own career because A, he's reached that status and deservedly so. And B, also because of all the injuries, it's a bit like Pat Cummins, right? He understands his body better than anyone else. I don't think like so. I always joke about Pat Cummins and like the nobody has a better relationship with their body than Pat does. But I think it's the same with Jasprit as well. So you will see that happen. Like and because in a weird way, Bumrah is because he's aged in front of us, we don't realize that he is in his early 30s, right? So
Mm,
um, I know for a fact from every time you've heard him talk about it, he wants Test cricket is, I don't know, something which is very special to him. But I think we'll start seeing, like we did in this England series, he'll play like a set number of matches, especially against these big teams where which are the only times you play 5 match series. That the what he did in Australia, where he played 5 tests and finally broke down before the crucial second innings. I don't think that's going to happen again. He will play 3 tests or 2 tests, depending on how many tests there are. And but he's good. He's very smart at managing his own body as well. Especially, he has become very smart at doing that. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, after this T20 World Cup, how old will he be by the next T20 World Cup? I can't see him play another 50 over World Cup after 2027 if he wants to go there. But it's still 2 years away. So you'd think he'd be there for the 2027 World Cup, which in all likelihood will be his last World Cup. So, um,
Yep.
yeah, I wonder if he does have another run of England and Australia and him Test cricket wise, but he will start dropping formats. And thankfully for India, I would say they don't have a lot of Test cricket between now and the next big chunk of Test cricket that they play again in 2027. So that might work in both his favor and India's favor.
Absolutely. Bharat, let's go into Pakistan right now because
Oh my
Mike Hassan
God, the
is
big
the
one.
head coach. Head coach right now. No Baba Azam, no Mohammad Rizwan. Huge question marks over here. I don't know. Like Mike Hassan has taken the huge step over here to not include Baba Azam and Mohammad Rizwan. Your thoughts over this, because it's a huge controversial thing that Mike Tyson has done. But do you think that's the right call from Mike Tyson in the first place of excluding both Baba Azam and Mohammad Rizwan, and then including back Fakar Zaman, and then they've included all these youngsters, especially
Hmm.
Saim Ayub and all these players into the team. So your thoughts on not including Baba Azam or Rizwan in this Asia Cup squad?
No, they've done the opposite of Sri Lanka, right? And I think Mike Hassan is known to do a lot of these New Zealand coaches or coaches who come from New Zealand, except
Yeah,
Stephen Fleming. Oh, I mean, Stephen
yeah,
Fleming hasn't coached at international level, has he? But a lot of
yeah,
them like to do that. They like to kind of just shake the system and they just take over. And with Babar and Rizwan, look, I think also when you don't live in Pakistan or you're not a Pakistan fan, it's so
yeah,
difficult to make out whether they like him or not, right? Especially with
yeah,
Babar. Like, yeah, because I don't know whether it's my algorithm or my social media keeps throwing up a lot of negative stuff on Babar from Pakistan fans. So, yeah, I mean, you feel for him. It cannot be easy being Babar Azam, right? Like, whatever you do, there's someone who's always there taking pot shots at you. The other day, I saw some clip where Saeed Ajmal was, I don't even know what tournament that was. I don't know why all these old players were playing against the young players, and Saeed Ajmal was getting him out, and everybody is happy, or most people who posted it were happy. But I think that time it felt like it was coming. And look, again, it's very similar. They had a good run, Babar and Rizwan at the top. That first big win they had against India in a World Cup, and they chased it down. But even them, I've always thought of them as being terrific 50 over players
yeah,
being made to play T20 cricket, or who are bringing like who are almost using like an abridged version of their 50 over skills in T20 cricket. And it will click, but it almost felt like with those two in the team, especially in the top order, there was a limit. Like, if there was anything over 175, it was a bit too out of reach. Anything under it, they would give you your best chance of winning. So I'm in fact very glad that Pakistan and under Mike Hassan have and done a very Mike Hassan thing of bringing in a lot of these younger players, not necessarily newer players, because a lot of them we have seen quite a bit of. And I personally have always liked what Salman Ali Aga does across formats. I saw him in 3 Test matches here last summer, and he just seems to have a very nice head around on top. Like, he's calm, and he does his bit really well, catches well, bats well. But it's the same though. I mean, I think of Pakistan very similarly to Sri Lanka in that sense of you almost always feel like when it comes to a big tournament, whether it's almost a reminder of how the format has kind of moved on from them, right? Like, yeah, or the other thing that happens, unlike with Sri Lanka, where there aren't too many big hitters, you will
yeah,
hear about like a couple of big hitters. And this has been happening for the last 10 years, I think, 12 years. I remember years ago hearing about this guy called Soeb Maqsood. Then they said he's the biggest hitter Pakistan have had. And I never saw him do anything, right? Like, I don't know why. But look, maybe it was just timing or whatever it was. But similarly, we've had so many others of that ilk come in,
exactly.
do a couple of good things here and there, but never really take their game to the next level or be like guys who will do anything of note in the longer run. So it's good that they have one experienced player at the top in Fakar Zaman. But yeah, I mean, he's a better T20 player probably than Babar and Rizwan, but is he an all-time kind of player? Like if you were to pick a Pakistan at this point, an all-time T20 11, does he open? Does he even open? I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. So, yeah, they're a very similar team to Sri Lanka in that sense, and Bangladesh as well, I would add,
Yeah.
who just always feel like one step too slow for T20 cricket as a team, like in approach wise. They'll have those moments where they'll come and have win famous matches, but they always feel like one step um, or half a step slow, half a beat. As someone who plays the drums, it's like when you're playing the drums, and at times you don't realize what is going on. You're just not in sync, and like often it's you're half a beat faster when you play live music. But in this case, it's almost like you're half a beat, just like just maybe not hitting the snare when you need to. Like that's what it feels like with their T20 cricket to me. So, but it's good that at least they're trying new players out, unlike Sri Lanka. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and Sayan Ayub, he's had that reputation ever since he burst onto the scene, the beginnings in the CPL final a couple of years ago, and he seems to have that very carefree, I'm going to take the world by storm kind of approach to his cricket. So hopefully it comes through, and in a way, it's not the worst thing for them that they start the tournament against India, get that game out of the way, whatever happens. And looking at their group, you think in all likelihood they'll progress unless there's a real big slip up. Which well, it is Pakistan, it can happen. We've seen it in the past, but then
Yes.
also when that kind of slip up happens is when they make finals, right? Like when they lost to what was it, Zimbabwe in Australia, and people
They lost to
wrote
USA
them
in
off.
the 2020 World Cup also last year, and
That
that
was
was
yeah,
also
that was that correct, yeah. And then they
yeah,
never recovered from that. But
yeah,
so you never know, but you think that they'll come through, and then they'll have that another India match to worry about as well after that. But it's good that they'll get that out of the way. Hopefully, by the time they get into that second phase of the tournament, they found some rhythm going because they're a team that who you when you least expect from them, they make finals of big tournaments, don't they? So I don't think they go into this tournament. I don't know. I'll ask you this question: like, are they in your top three favorites? Probably not. I don't
no,
think so.
I don't think
So not at all. So maybe, which is a good sign if you are a Pakistan fan. Maybe that's when they'll surprise you.
so. I think even Pakistan fans themselves, I think, are not even
They
looking
never.
at this.
No. That's
Yeah,
one thing about Pakistan fans. Like they always start with "we are not going to win," and then they get like yeah, and they
yeah.
adjust their expectations accordingly.
Especially because I did watch the Pakistan versus Australia last year at the MCG as well, and there were glimpses that they were
Yeah,
good. I think they won that match actually against. No, Australia actually won that match. Sorry, at the end of the day, but Pakistan were very close of beating Australia, but
yeah.
Australia did manage to scrape through that match. But I think Pakistan won a series against Australia. I honestly can't remember
They
to
were
be
a
honest.
one-day series for sure. Yeah,
They
they
won
were
the
a
one
one-day
day. Yeah,
series.
exactly. The one day series they did win. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But your thoughts on Fakhar Zaman, because he's a really, really interesting cricketer. To be honest, now he's come back. I was just checking the scores yes against UAE. He scored 77 of 44, and he's batting at number three. He used to be opener. He's really good in ODI cricket. To be honest, he's another cricketer in ODI cricket who's transitioned himself in the 2020
Hmm.
format. Now they're playing him at number three, to be honest, and he's taking the number three role really well also. I've been watching a couple of matches of him,
Yeah.
and he's been performing, and he has that experience. He was excluded in the 2020 squad a few
Hmm.
months back, and they brought him back in the squad. So your thoughts on him?
I think the reason he's been brought back is to bat at number three and sort of be that senior figure who, and number three is such an important position in all formats, but especially in T20 cricket, right? Like, yeah. And it doesn't mean that it's like, they are the anchor players and those things are gone. Like the anchor player concept is gone from T20 cricket, but he's someone who can score at that 150, 160, but almost really set the tone for the second half of the innings, if that makes sense. I mean, if he comes in early, they lose an early wicket, then he can set the tone from early. And I think it's just the fact that you need that one experience. Now with Babar and Rizwan gone, you could either have gone very extreme and just have all young players in there, but it's good to have that one stable guy. And I think in Pakistan having Fakhar Zaman in these big tournaments as well. He always has a couple of big innings up his sleeve, doesn't he? Or one big match winning inning. So I think one that would be one of the reasons why they have him in that mix. I remember even in, though this is during the Babar Rizwan era, like what Shan Masood sort of played that role in 2022. But Fakhar Zaman has all the skills to do that. And then you also are giving him that a bit of license as well, where he can play at two different gears as well, like, yeah, rather than just and often what happens with Pakistan is because their middle order is often not power packed. I mean, they have a couple of power hitters now, but
Yeah.
it's not power packed. Often the the top order is always under pressure to go hard at the start,
Mm.
and that's when Fakhar Zaman is not at his best. Like, if you give him a bit of time to just get his eye in, then he can just really motor on. So I'm quietly happy that they brought him back in, and then they can almost have the youngsters build around him.
Exactly. I just want to take some comments from from here from the comment section. They are learning videos by Nikhil here says the other thing that I don't like is that a lot of people on social media, Pakistanis and Indians too, take pot shots at the Pakistan team when they lose one game even. Lol. That's-
That's just Nikhil. That's a social media for you, right? Everybody is just waiting to, like, if tomorrow you just posted a video of you walking on the road, you'll get 2 likes. If you the next morning you post a video of even you just slipping for 2 seconds and falling on your bum, whether they know you or not, you'll get 500 likes. That's just the world we live in, and especially with the Pakistan team, there is a lot of there are a lot of people in Pakistan who are on social media as well. So
yeah.
it does get a lot more traction, um, and the Indian fans just pile on as well, don't they? I mean, it's a bit of back and forth. I wish it was healthier. Like, I don't mind like the whole back and forth between fans and all of that. I wish it was healthier, but sadly, 90% of the time it gets into spaces you don't want to go to, and it gets pretty nasty. So you're right, though. You're right. There is a lot of people who are almost wishing ill on the Pakistan team, and most of them come from Pakistan. I don't understand that at all, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, talking about this India versus Pakistan on the 15th September, Bharat, who do you think are going as favorites? I know you're Indian, for sure the Masters you
Not
can't play.
anymore. Like, yeah, no, I was never. I'm not Indian anymore, and I
Yeah.
wasn't an Indian fan growing up, so I'm a neutral in that sense.
Okay.
So,
All right. But how do
um,
you see this going on, like this encounter? Because, Pakistan have
yeah.
surprised India in the past, in the
Mm.
2022-2021 World Cup as well. How do you see this young Pakistan team actually going up against this experienced Indian team? How do you see that going on?
I'm just looking at that squad and looking at how many of them have a lot of baggage against India, right? Fakhar
Yeah.
Zaman has won that one game, and then they've lost against India quite a bit. The bowlers have all lost many games against India, whether it's Shaheen or Haris, or Hassan Ali as well. So it's a good thing that. Or Mohammad Nawaz, poor guy, how can I forget him from the MCG
Yeah.
all those years ago? And I'll never forget the look on his face the next morning. I just happened to be on the same flight as the Pakistan team to Perth, because I was going to Perth for an Australia game and they were going to Perth as well. And just looking at those Pakistan players the next morning, it broke my heart. They were so like still smarting from the defeat. And Mohammad Nawaz in particular, he was checking everyone out on the flight, as if like he was expecting someone to say something about him or something to him or at him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I think so. It's, in a way, it's good that not at least 60% of them have no baggage against India, and
Mm.
I say that like with hopes that means that they'll come out and play with a bit of extra freedom. No, India go in as like ultimate favorites. Like, there's no
Yeah.
no doubt about that.
No doubt about
But
it. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, but maybe not having that baggage, and I just hope that. Oh no, that's not even hope. I hope this doesn't get too nasty around it. Like, not at the ground, but just the political discussion, and there will be political discussions unavoidable when this
Yeah.
match happens. But let's see how it goes. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how these matches will be received from all parties in India, and especially in India, but also in Pakistan. But in
Yeah.
terms of like, yeah, who goes in as favorites?
India.
it'll be India. But yeah, maybe one of those Pakistani youngsters can have a day that they'll never forget.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Especially, I remember that 2022, as you say, also like Mohammad Nawaz bowling against Virat Kohli, like that spin option that they had to face in the death overs, like
Ah,
usually.
no, no.
Yeah, and then Kohli just took the advantage of that, and especially that shot that he played at MCG, that spread. I wish I was there in 2022, to be honest, in Australia. But yeah, that match was just the best out of it.
Yeah.
What
No,
Kohli
I
took
mean,
that. Yeah,
I'll never
yeah,
forget it because I was doing commentary and so there were three of us. Obviously, Jared Waitley's call has become epic for good reason. The shot of an emperor, and so he was calling it. It was me and Dan Berry, and so it was so loud that I couldn't hear them. So because I
yeah.
was, so it was them, and then I was just sat behind, right above Jared in the tight MCG commentary box. So every time Jared called something, I didn't know whether he was coming to me or him. So I was just looking at Darren Webberry's lips to see if they're moving or not. If they weren't, then I knew I was. I was. It was my turn to talk. So it was unforgettable night. What a great finish that was.
Exactly. Well, let's come into Bangladesh, because this team also is another interesting team. Just like Sri Lanka, they just beat Sri Lanka in the 2020 series. I think last year they lost to UAE and USA away, and then they all of a sudden beat Sri Lanka and Pakistan away.
Mm.
Very interesting team. They are sort of like, they don't have the consistency. I don't know, they lose to low teams like UAE and USA in the past year, but then they go on and beat Sri Lanka and Pakistan away, and now they're playing a series against Netherlands right now. So your
Yeah.
thoughts on this Bangladesh team, because they are led by Liton Das, they also seem to have some experience, but they're sort of a very interesting team. They are number 10 right now in the rankings as well. A very, very interesting team, a potential, like a team that could have gone maybe to a semi-final final. They've been to the Asia Cup finals three times, and they've lost all
Mm.
three. Sorry, they lost two with India and one against Pakistan.
Mm.
One was in the 2020 format, if I'm missing, 2016 or 2018. But your thoughts on Bangladesh in general?
Uh, yeah, I'm sorry, but I know, I know a lot of Bangladeshi people. They're lovely people, but yeah, that train has left their station. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there was a time when T20 cricket was played at at a different pace that they could kind of keep up with it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they've just been sort of left behind in the lurch. And when you look at even within Asia, they're at a stage where the others are coming for them. So whether it's I mean, I don't know, we don't have Nepal this time, do we, in this tournament? But the other teams are kind of the teams below them are catching up with them, rather than there was a point where it was all about how close Bangladesh can come to the likes of India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Now it's gone the other way in T20 cricket, that is, where you fear that they don't get lapped or overtaken by, even in this tournament. Like, you look at that group that they're in. They are third ranked in that team, but are they? You're just like, it'll be a shock if it's not Pakistan and Afghanistan who come out of that group, right? Like I say, they have Hong Kong in their mix, and
Hong
uh,
Kong, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and yeah, Afghanistan against the same group.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Sri
I meant
Lanka.
Sri
Sri
Lanka,
Lanka
and
versus
yeah, so Sri
Bangladesh
Lanka
once
and
again. Another
yeah,
another
yes,
rivalry match again. Yeah,
yeah. So Sri Lanka and Afghanistan, like, sort of um, start as favorites in that group. You'd think in that order, or
yeah.
Afghanistan and Sri Lanka in that order. But yeah, I mean, maybe Hong Kong could like surprise them, and yeah, it's one of those teams, right? Like, you always felt like they would come through. But I've never really been a big fan of Bangladesh in T20 cricket. Yeah, they've just, and a bit like the Sri Lankan team, we discussed a lot of familiar names in that team who've been to a lot of World Cups and Asia Cups without
Yeah.
doing much. And the one thing they will have is always is a lot of journalists supporting them, which is
Mm,
wonderful. They'll
yeah.
have the whole country up behind them, a lot of debates, and yeah, but yeah, there are some like decent players in that team, like players who are very good in some other formats. But yeah, just not the most exciting team in T20 cricket. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, but I think Bangladesh did beat Sri Lanka in the 2020 World Cup last year also. So do you see like they can maybe beat Sri Lanka once again in the
Then,
Asia Cup?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like, see, India Pakistan is the rivalry that, like, the world will pay attention to. But Sri Lanka Bangladesh is the fun rivalry, right? Like,
Yeah,
after like all the trolling that happens around it, and there always seems to be some sort of edge between them. It's been for a while now. That is the um, undercard, like in wrestling, as they say, there's the main event, but then often there'll be like an undercard feud or rivalry that more people will be excited about, and this is that one. And you're right. I mean, who would have thought, right? When even 10 years ago, if you had said that there would be a group in any tournament, Asia Cup, where it's Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and who would have thought that the way it would go is Afghanistan are almost favorites and sure shot to progress from that group, and whoever wins between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh will be the one that will, like, go through. So that's where we are now. Because
yeah,
if say this was not two groups, or and there was a 6 or 8 teams all playing against each other, the different kind of format. Again, they don't fit into that top four. Neither of them do. So it's almost
yeah.
like you take whoever is left behind. It would have been India, Pakistan, Afghanistan going through. Not that Pakistan are the best T20 team, but yeah, I mean, you feel for Bangladesh, but yeah, they've just been left behind, and I'm not sure what can be done for them to become a force in T20 cricket. But yeah, it is like, I will just leave it at that with them, because it's like you save this. Or the other way to put it is, if you just look at the last 6 7 years, you've seen the same Bangladesh team, not in terms of players necessarily,
Yeah.
but you know what to expect from them. You will see that, and they'll have a couple of wins here and there, but yeah, then they just like fizzle out and go away.
Do you see Bangladesh winning a trophy anytime, at least even a Asia Cup? Because last 25
Oof.
years, because the fans right now,
Yeah.
because I do associate with certain Bangladesh fans, they expect them to win at least one trophy. They had that chance in like many
Hmm.
Asia Cup finals. They got very close against India in
Oh, that
2016.
Dinesh Karthik game. Yeah.
Yeah, 2012, they
Yeah.
were very close, but they couldn't win. And they had Shakib Al Hassan, they had Mamdullah,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
had Mushfiqur Rahim that time. They had all these players, but still they couldn't win a Asia Cup. They won under 19 World Cup, so whatever they
Yeah.
got, the under 19 team is very, very strong, to be honest. Like, they are, compared to Sri Lanka, I think the under 19 stage, like their level is really good compared to even
Hmm.
Sri Lanka, Pakistan. But in terms of like the senior team, do you see them winning any trophy, at least like Asia Cup, or I
Yeah.
don't know, like even come to ICC World Cup semi-final at least? Because Afghanistan has over exceeded
Yeah.
Bangladesh
Yeah.
honest. Like, yes, Bangladesh did go to ICC Champions Trophy semi-final, but they never went to a ODI World Cup or 2020 World Cup semi-finals. So your thoughts on Bangladesh, at least for the next 10 or 15 years? Do you see them doing any good, or are they going to be in
Hmm.
that same level?
I mean, I'm an optimist, so I'll
Yeah,
say
yeah,
never. So maybe they
yeah,
can, but I
yeah,
think it's also a lesson in sport, right? So when you have like a good run, like you said, they got to that semi-final and the Champions Trophy. Even in 2015, got to the quarterfinal and beat England. But if you don't win titles when you have that run, if you're at one of those teams, you do run the risk of then you have that wait being longer, or
yeah,
probably never getting that chance again. And we've seen that in the past. Think back to Zimbabwe, before the political situation. Like, they had the team to go really deep into tournaments, but they just couldn't.
mm,
And Bangladesh had that opportunity to win something like the Asia Cup as well. Like you said, a couple of times they got to the final, but now it just feels like the circle has turned and they're kind of dropped in the pecking order. And Afghanistan are in that position. They look much stronger than Bangladesh ever did. Afghanistan,
yeah,
and which is why I keep saying it's. I think it's important for Afghanistan cricket that they win a title sometime very soon, so that they don't the circle doesn't turn on them. But yeah, like hopefully Bangladesh do win. I mean, because just purely because of how much joy it brings to people in Bangladesh, and I do hope that happens. But as of what, September 5th to 2025. It would take a brave person to stick their neck out and say 100% they're going to win something soon.
Yeah. So I'll take some comments over here. Rohan says, so no Nagin dance this time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's part of it, isn't it? Like, so I like that kind of theater. Like, till the time it doesn't get nasty, you need stuff like that. So, see, with that one silly dance move, a rivalry is born. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Learning videos with Nikhil says Bangladesh will win one. Yeah, so he's sort of
Hopefully,
optimistic.
yeah, no, that'll be
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. And Ashwani, I think we already answered this question for Bharat, that Bangladesh's under 19 team did so well in the World Cup tournament, but why they failed to replicate this on the senior level. Yeah, that's the exact question what I asked also.
Yeah, no, no, I think,
Right.
see, with Bangladesh cricket as well, and often it's not also about the players, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, if you think Pakistan cricket is always in a state of flux, don't even like get even go near Bangladesh cricket, because who knows who is in charge, and there's always so much drama happening behind the scenes. So until that stabilizes, I don't think you'll see the team being consistent, because they're always interlinked, aren't they? You can have some really good players, but if there's this constant churn in terms of captain and coach and the board president and all those things, and I think that hasn't helped their cause at all, and it's not really the players fault. All
yeah.
the backroom shenanigans have always impacted them. So I think, the to Nikhil's point, they might win one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they'll win one when there is a little more stability behind the scenes and on top as well.
But your thoughts also on Shakib Al Hassan, Bharat, because the way that he ended his career wasn't the way that he would want to, because he's the probably the best Bangladesh cricketer
Hmm,
that
for
has been
sure.
produced. And he was a critical part. Even I think with KKR also, he played a huge
Hmm,
role also in their 2012 and 2014 wins also for KKR, and he's a pivotal all round as well. And now he's playing in CPL and all that, and he really doesn't have any chance of getting back into that Bangladesh team, because he got into politics and all that, and they don't want him anymore in the team. But your thoughts on Shakib in general? Like, he could have ended in a
yeah.
very good note, but politics sort of like ruined him as well.
Yeah, and I think, like, it's just not politics. Like, I mean, I'm sure he's played a part in it as well. Like,
Yeah,
whether it's consciously or subconsciously or whatever
yeah,
role it is, he's definitely played a big part in what has happened, right? Like, in this whole drama that's played around Shakib. I remember going to Bangladesh in 2010 when he was just become captain then, and they lost the test match to India, and just the way the Bangladeshi journalists climbed on him back then, I felt for him really. And you're right. I mean, he is by far the greatest cricketer Bangladesh have ever produced, and it'll take something very special from someone now or in the future to kind of take that title away from him. And he's achieved so much personally and around the world in all these leagues. He would have loved to have been part of a big winning campaign in a big World Cup, but that wasn't to be. And I mean, he was kind of ahead of his time in a way as well. Like, if imagine if he was 25 now, like, you could have seen the even more riches that he would have made, and with his skills and natural talent, he would have worked on it and become even better. He would have added, brought a lot more power hitting to his game, and he would have
yeah.
been an even bigger cricketer. So it's all timing. So it's one of those things, yeah. But in sport, how many people do get to choose the best exit? Very few do. So it's one of those things.
Like the way that Virat Kohli ended Test career, and even
Yeah,
Rohit Sharma, the farewell never comes to what it's
yeah.
supposed to be. Yeah, especially. Just want to touch a bit on the last three teams: Oman, UAE, Hong Kong. What can we expect from these three teams? Yes, UAE has played a few Asia Cups. I think even Hong
Mm.
Kong played the last Asia
Yeah.
Cup, if I'm mistaken. Oman also has been part of a few 2020 World Cup experience. Surprised that there's no Nepal. I thought like Nepal will get into the Asia Cup with the way that they've been performing, especially the 2024 2020 World Cup. They were so close of beating South Africa. They just lost by 1 run. They gave a good fight in that 2020 World Cup, but there's no Nepal in this Asia Cup. But
Yeah.
your thoughts on these three teams? Like, do you expect them to like trouble any of the five teams? So, how do you see it going
Mm.
for these three teams in general?
Like I said earlier, Hong Kong find themselves in the best position to do that because
Yeah,
of the group they're in. Like, they could easily shock one of Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, you'd think. Afghanistan might be too good for them. Look, I mean, it's one of those things where I did go through the squads, and there are a lot of players who I haven't heard much about. But then there are the regulars who have been around for a while. So very uh, classic associate country fashion. So associate team fashion. So it'll be good. I mean, it's a that word is overused, but it's exposure for a lot of these guys. But also these days, the way it works is because of the way the T20 league world works. This is great exposure for individual players as well. Like if you say if you are from Oman or UAE, um, that game against India becomes so big because if you can, or even Pakistan, so if you can really pull off something special, make a 15-22 balls against Bumrah. I mean, I don't know how you do it, but against Bumrah and Kuldeep and Arshdeep, well, then, the IPL auction is not too far away. So you
Oh
never
yeah.
know, right? Like, so, or if not the IPL, there are so many other leagues as well looking for those guys.
Mm.
So I think, and I think it's important, like, often people deride T20 league cricket and say it's harming international cricket. I don't think so at all. I think these are great auditions for a lot of these players. Obviously, as a team, they would want to win, but if these teams can kind of produce individual players who go from here and play league cricket. Look at what has happened to Afghanistan, right? Take that Afghanistan route, then they could come through as well. So UAE will obviously have love playing on home soil. So hopefully, at least for that UAE Oman match, you hopefully it's a huge crowd supporting the UAE. I think the Indian Pakistan fans will dwarf them for those games. But it's a great opportunity for them to play on home soil.
Yeah, but especially on the UA team is a bit interesting because they have that ILT20 league going
Yeah.
on, and there are a few players that also capture the eye, especially Mohammad Wasim, very experienced
Yes.
player. They have a few experienced players that could honestly like trouble that could be in the eye of India, especially with this IPL contract, because especially because they have their own league going on, and especially because lot of like because Indian like the IPL franchises are only having these teams. So and they have some
Hmm.
very exciting talentos, I think, especially with seeing the squados. I think Javdullah, Junaid Siddiq, some experienced
Hmm.
players. Even I've heard of Aryan Sharafu from the Abu Dhabi Knight Riders,
Right.
Aryan Sharma, Ethan D'Souza has been doing well at number 3. So your thoughts on this UA team, especially because there's some good youngsters that have been performing. I'm right now in the Tri Series, so I've been like following
Hmm.
a bit of that as well, and they've sort of been giving some good competition. They beaten Bangladesh in a 2020 series. So your thoughts on this UA team, especially being captained by Wasim?
And what you just mentioned, I think you just hit the nail on the head. The chances that they've got to play in these in the ILT20 in particular, a lot of these players have come from there or have got to play in that. Again, rubbing shoulders with some big names from around the world, or whether it's that or just to play in a. I mean, it's not the IPL, but it's still a high-profile tournament. It happens in a. It's got its own space in the cricket calendar now, and people are watching. So to play under that pressure, something that say the Oman players and the Hong Kong players don't often get. So I think that needs to. So like think about it, right? We spoke a lot about Afghanistan and how their players have to go play in other leagues, but to hail from a part of the world, a region which has its own T20 league, I think we'll see. We're seeing that is where that improvement is coming from as well, because often it's a lot of them have the skills, but it's just feeling like you belong at that level, right? Like so, even the confidence that you get from playing in a league like the ILT20 will manifest itself in that the confidence you take to the crease or with the ball in hand at this level. So, which is why I said this is a great opportunity for them. And even if they're just thinking about it as individuals, it's good for the overall development of UAE cricket and the overall growth of associate cricket. So, the individuals can make a team in cricket when in this scenario that we talk about.
Yeah, even in Oman also, I think Jatinder Singh. I think even these players,
Such
especially
names that we've heard for a long time. Yeah.
especially I think Zizan Maksud recently retired, I think, but still they had some good players that I saw in the 2022-2020 World Cup, because I was following this, because especially Sri Lanka was playing those qualifiers.
Mm,
So I was following a bit their squad. They have a very, very very experienced squad. A lot of players in the 30s and 40s right
mm.
now, even playing for Oman. So that is really interesting also. But Bharat, coming into predictions wise, how do you see this Asia Cup going? Especially, I would want to know, especially who will be your highest run scorer, highest wicket
Oh,
taker. I won't pick who's going to win the Asia Cup, but I would want to know, like,
yeah.
maybe the semi-finalists and maybe the finalists of the Asia Cup 2025 from you, if possible. Yeah.
All right. Let's say, look, which whoever I mention, I'm gonna get hate from someone else, so it doesn't matter anyway. So let's say it's gonna be an India-Afghanistan final. I think that'll be a good final. I think they are the two best teams in this tournament. And look, I mean, will India gain much by winning this Asia Cup? Not really. I mean, it'll be good, but let's this be the one which Afghanistan win. Like, I really want them to win a title, and for them to then just propel that title win, then just makes great things happen for the cricket team. So yeah, that would be. So I know you didn't want me to predict who the winner is, but this is more out of hope than anything else, because
Yeah.
it'll be
Yeah.
good that if
Yeah.
Afghanistan go all the way. And so in terms of highest run score and highest wicket taker, let's just pick one from each of those teams, right? Let's say, okay, let me look at the squads again and just tell you. Uh, okay, let's pick an Indian bowler who takes most wickets. So Kuldeep Yadav finishes with the most wickets, right? And so let's pick a batter from. I like the look of Rasuli. I'm going to say this is going to really stick my neck out. So Darvish Rasuli has the most runs. Kuldeep Yadav has the most wickets, and Afghanistan beat India in the final of the Asia Cup. There you go.
Interesting. Some interesting thoughts over that. I just want to take some questions from the comment section, because a lot of people are wanting to ask you questions.
That's all
So
right.
I just want to take before ending the show over here. Ashwani here says, what's your take on fast bowling culture in subcontinent and in SENA countries? How subcontinent teams can work more on injury management for fast bowlers?
Hmm. It's a very good question, Ashwini, and it's improved a lot. I mean, obviously, fast bowling culture. I'm not even you don't even have to go to the Kapil Dev era, but even in the era I grew up in the 90s, you compare that to now, with just the understanding of fast bowling and also the whole cross culture information that's happened. The Australians who've gone and worked in India and the Indians who come and worked in Australia. So there's and the English as well. So all of that I think has helped. I mean, just look at something like that fusion back surgery, right? They do in New Zealand. So many cricketers have, whether it's Bumrah or Cameron Green or now we have Lance Morris. I think he's going to get a similar surgery. Go back in time to even the likes of I think Shane Bourne had a few, but even from that point on, it's progressed so much that I think James Pattinson had one of those as well. So that really has helped. That you have access to that kind of sports medicine and the recovery. You can come back from serious injuries like that. But I think the big difference between, and it's not even like subcontinent versus the rest. I think Australia have been very fortunate in the way that they have managed their fast bowlers, and they're also kind of genetic freaks in Stark, Hazelwood, and Cummins. But with Pat Cummins, because he missed 6 years of his career between 2011 and 17, and then spent so much time with his own body getting it better, he understands it better than anyone else, as I said earlier, but which has allowed him to have this great career he's had since. But the fact that they are rotated in a way where they play the World Cups, but they don't play most of the bilaterals in between, whether it's 50 over cricket or 20, especially T20 over cricket, or they'll rotate them. Hazelwood will play one, Stark will play one. Cummins, after he's become captain, doesn't play in most of them. He knows how to get his body ready. So Australia have done it differently. England, you see that so many of those bowlers keep breaking down, right? Like now, Mark Wood didn't play the whole India series, and Jofra Archer played the last two. Now, Jofra Archer is playing the two ODIs against South Africa that they've lost. So I don't think England have always got it right. India has gotten so much better. India has become amazing in terms of what the NCA does, and I think one of the unsung heroes of Indian cricket in the last 15 years is Patrick Farrad, the great physio who from Sydney, who spent a lot of time there in the IPL and then as India bowling. Oh, sorry, India bowling good as India physio, and you speak to a lot of the Indian players of that era, fast bowlers. They even now, I think they are always in touch with Patrick, or they always talk of him as being a huge boon in their lives in terms of their longevity. So the culture itself is changed, and fast bowlers are treated differently with, and they are protected a lot more in India
Yes.
as well. But yeah, I think Australia is an outlier in that sense. So other teams are always trying to get to Australia. But it's difficult with India because of how much the Indian cricket team plays. Now it's easy.
Yeah.
There are so many. Someone else I saw in the comments said they could have two teams in T20 cricket, which is true. But because they have enough players to send everywhere, so like
Yeah.
the Bumrah can be protected, Siraj can be protected,
Mm.
and that can happen. So it's already changing, but it will change even more and it'll get better.
Yeah. I want to take this comment from Salman Noor. So here he says, how do you balance maintaining relationships with players, coaches, etc., while still asking the hard questions or sensitive questions? Example about bad form and performances.
No, very good question, Salman. And I think the only way you can do that, and I guess I'm fortunate to be able to do that, is if you go into as a journalist, if you treat every conversation, which is a professional conversation, not a personal one, with no agenda, right? Like, so you go there with only to do the story. I mean, I'm not out to get anyone. At the same time, I'm not sucking up to anyone. So just like play that very professionally and straight. People, and the longer you do it, people will know how with that you're genuine, you're authentic, and you have no agenda. But if you're fake in some way, or even if you are like, you feel like I'm a journalist, I have to have the hard hitting. I have to bring if I and because a lot of journalists have that attitude. If I don't bring someone down, I'm not doing my job. I've never believed in that. Like,
Yeah.
if you have to bring someone down, if they've done something, that's your job. You do it, but you don't intentionally have to go and do that. And so it's not that difficult for me to ask about bad form and performance, because it's also how you pose that question as well, right? You don't make it personal. You don't ask lead on questions. So you don't say, oh, so you didn't do well, so are you worried about your place in the team? Now that's not a fair question to ask, because that's not in their control, and that's not the time to ask that question as well. So it is very important balancing those relationships. I'm like, and also it's a personality thing. Like, like people say I'm close to the Australian cricketers, but that's more like I'm friendly with everyone. So it's not like, yeah, I mean, they happen to be cricketers, so I'm friendly with them, but I'm friendly with like 1,000 other people as well who are not cricketers. But that's just it's my personality. I just love people. I talk to people. I'm friendly with them. So it's more that. So I don't have to really work too hard on balancing that, maintaining that relationship in that sense. But your question is a very valid one. So when you're asking those hard questions, sensitive questions, it's always a good idea to, for half a second, think of them as a human being, not only as an athlete, right? Like at the end of the day, they have feelings as well. So there's a way of couching everything, or positioning your question in a way where you're still asking the hard question, but you're doing it in a sensitive fashion.
Exactly. I'll take this comment from Shankar Raman as well. He says, are you in touch with Patrick Patterson? Your article on Patrick was too good. Hope he is doing good.
Thank you very much for that question, Shankar, and I very much am. I've been in touch with him from that day. I met him for the first time in 2017, and I wrote that story. You might have seen I started a GoFundMe for him 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, 2022, I think, 3 years ago. And thank you so much for those listening. If you have contributed, or it's still an active GoFundMe, so you can contribute to it, because uh, he's never done well financially for years. And you'd also be happy to know that when was it? 2 months ago, when I was in Jamaica. So my first visit to Jamaica since 2017. I went and met him. I had a whole day with him. We had lunch together. We had a couple of drinks. We just had a great time. So I had to support him a lot in more ways than one, in many ways. But the financial support aside, which I do it as a duty, it's more the emotional support that I'm able to provide him. And I take a lot of joy in it. So it was a great afternoon. I posted some clips on social media. You can find it. He's looking great. He still has a lot of issues, and I hope things turn around for him. But yeah, he really really appreciates people asking about him. So if you're listening to this, if you have friends who are Patrick Patterson fans or who've read the story or know about him, even if you don't want to contribute, or if you're not in a position to contribute for the GoFundMe, just go and say positive things about him on social media. I'll make sure I get it to him because he loves the fact that people still think of him.
Yeah, definitely I'll contribute for the GoFund. I actually didn't know about it, but definitely I will try my
That's all
best.
right. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. Rohan here says covered all Australian venues, but how different was Mackay and Kynes in winter?
Sadly, Rohan, I've not been to either of those, so I didn't travel for those games in Mackay and Cairns, but that's the reality of bilateral white ball cricket. Journalists or media companies don't have the budget to send people to cover bilateral ODIs, especially if they are off the beaten track like Cairns and Mackay. I hope that those two tests against Bangladesh next year are in Darwin, so I'll get to go there. But I've heard a lot of good things about Cairns. It's just too expensive to go. I was planning to go for those, but then I saw the tickets, and to go on by yourself, it was a bit too expensive. You can't make it worth it financially, so I couldn't go this time. But I'm sure I'll get myself there. From all reports, Cairns is a beautiful part of the world, and it's warmer. It's warmer than other parts of the country during that time of the year. Similar with Mackay as well. I was in Brisbane just 2 days ago, and just to go from the Adelaide Hills with what 3 degree, 4 degree weather to just go to 21 degrees and dress in my shorts, which is what I prefer wearing, was
Yeah.
a good relief. And I think that's how Cairns and Mackay are as well. But I will hopefully end up going there very soon, and I'll let you know how it is.
Yeah, definitely. Same over here. I would like to go to Cairns as well, but that's that's a dream for me with the budget I have as well. But
Yeah.
it's also one of my things as well. But side here says just give me a second. Just give me so many comments over here. Science here says in Australia, Carlton and United series is not happening. Tri Nation series. I think back in the 90s, 18s, 90s, we had the
Yeah, yeah.
series on, especially the tournaments. So he's asking why it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
happening. So,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I mean it was yeah. I mean we all grew up on it. We all You're very young, but we grew up on it in the '90s and the even till the mid 2000s. It was a big deal. The Benson and Hedges Trophy. It was had different names. Carlton and United started off as Benson and Hedges and Carlton and United. I think it was called the Combank for a while, and so now it is a pity, but it's just this. A sign of changing times, right? Cricket has changed so much, and economic. I've been speaking for too long. The economics around ODI cricket and just its relevance has changed, and also these days because most tours are split up with the big countries like so. India came and played Test last year. They're coming and playing white ball stuff this year. England are playing Ashes next year. They'll be back playing some white ball games. So that's how it's become. So rarely do you see a team or a country or a team go to another country and play all three formats together. So I think that's been a big played a big role as well. But it comes down to the money and what the broadcasters want. Eventually, it's what the broadcasters want. So yeah, I mean the thing is, it's become archival footage, right? You can go and watch all those great try series, and now because of all these um, brilliant people on social media, I still don't know how they do it. The clips that they put out, and I wonder where they store it and where it is. Like maybe I'm too not intelligent to know how that's done, so there's still access to it, so that's good. I do spend some free time watching those clips.
Yeah. Kaushik here says, I think I asked on the predictions for top run score and wicket takers, but player of the tournament I missed out, and also the
Hmm.
semi-finalists for the Asia Cup. Who
Are
do
they
you think?
semi-finalists? I thought the format is like they just go into the top four, and
Oh, they had the
then there's
Super
a
Four, right? If I'm not
super
mistaken.
four.
Again,
Yeah, yeah, super.
along with India, Afghanistan, who do you think will be the other two teams for you?
Ooh, no, I think look, Pakistan will be there for sure. I think Sri Lanka will get there. I think Sri Lanka will get there. So yeah, player of the tournament. Oh, the T20 tournament is always a big challenge. So I said Kuldeep Yadav is going to take most wickets.
And Rasul,
Um,
yes, runs
as
highest runs.
so And if Afghanistan are winning, will the player of the tournament come? Let's give, because okay, we're giving Afghanistan the trophy. Let's give an Indian player the player of the tournament. Let's say, oh, I like Abhishek Sharma. Let Abhishek Sharma be the, yeah. So he'll make runs, but not as many as Rasuli. He'll take a couple of vital wickets here and there, and because of that, he'll become player of the tournament. Let's see how it
Yeah.
goes.
I'll just take one more question or two questions before ending this. Side here says Sai Baza is better than Baba. Your thoughts, especially I think he's been performing well also. I think for
In T
Pakistan, I
in
didn't
T20
really,
cricket, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's tough to argue against that point, Syed. Like, yeah, he's and they, the fact that one is in the squad and the other's been dropped kind of tells you that the Pakistan selectors agree with you as well.
yeah, exactly. And also Ashwani here says duo of Abar and Sufyan can surprise India, especially Abra Ahmad. Your thoughts on him as well, being the spinner, maybe
Hmm.
him and I think Kusil Shah, if I'm not mistaken. So all those spinners will be taking part. So your thoughts on the Pakistan spinners?
Um, like,
Yeah,
look, it'll be good if they do, and like the some of them, like I said earlier, don't have the baggage of playing against India in these big games, so it's a chance to become a hero. So, yeah, I think Abrar did. What do I think? Abrar has played some big game against India. Maybe I'm just mixing it up, but no, it's good. No, that there is some talent there with the bowling. It's the batting that's always the problem with Pakistan and T20 cricket.
yeah. Last question before ending it. I want to take this question from Ashwani. It's even a question of me also. Another
Yeah.
question. What's your thinking on two-tier test system? Will it benefit test cricket or not?
Will it benefit Test cricket? It's a good question. I think it in the long run it will. Like, look, I don't know whether it'll be the two-tier system or it'll be two divisions. I think some boards are happy with the promotion relegation system. I mean the bigger boards. The other boards sadly don't seem to have that big a say anymore.
Yeah,
It'll be good in terms of there being an incentive, like, so people, I mean, often, like, when these kinds of discussions come up, people just think of the white and the black, right? Like, there are only two ways of doing it, but
yeah,
if you really do it well, you can make it work, wherein there's motivation and incentive for a lot of um, teams in the bottom tier to, if there is promotion, that they can get in there, get into the big mix, and maybe
yeah,
that'll allow them to play more test matches as well. And I
yeah,
don't mind the idea of at least having the provision for 4 day test cricket. So I'm not saying test cricket should always be 5 days. I agree with that. I'm a big fan of 5 day test cricket.
yeah,
But because it's so expensive to host test cricket for most countries who are not India, Pakistan, sorry, who are not India, Australia, and England, if they have that option, then they can have, like, they can just play more series, right? They can invite more teams and have more matches, and then there's always that incentive to come up. And even if, like, say, one of the big teams do get uh, demoted or relegated, like, imagine that whole period. And in a weird way, Australian fans, I'm not saying they'll want that, but if it does happen, it'll
yeah,
create a different kind of excitement around Australia. Like, wait, hang on,
yeah,
Australia's at the bottom, and Australia will have to beat the likes of Ireland and Afghanistan to come back up. And you'd think that with those big three teams in particular, or even you can throw New Zealand and South Africa into the mix, rarely, if even if they do drop, they're not going to stay there for too long, right? There's too much talent for them to come back up. So I think it'll work. I mean, look, everything has to be looked at realistically. Is it ideal? No. I mean, it's in an
yeah,
ideal world, there are 12 test teams or even more, and everybody's more or less on the same level, and it's all happening. But that's not how sport works. Cricket has changed; it's a business now. So I think it'll, in the long run, it will benefit test cricket if it's done well, and also if, like, people change, get, or are not very rigid in their thinking. Just be okay to change. Just be okay to change. That's just a life lesson.
yeah. Do you think like am I? Oh, sorry. I think I lost
Yeah, no,
connection
you're
also.
back.
But
You're back here.
yes, yeah, especially. But I think I also forgot the question I was going to ask. But anyways, but when it comes to the two-tier system, like especially like teams like even Pakistan, Sri Lanka could is in danger. Like even Bangladesh. Do you think like teams like West Indies, to be honest, like the way that they had in the 70s, 80s, like especially it's a shame that West Indies is in this sort of like sort of in a scenario where they have to play second, like the second division probably if this happens. But do you realistically think I remember the question again also, like do you think like the current WTC system is fair, to be honest, like because South Africa plays 12 test matches then the final of WTC, but then there's teams like India, England, Australia, obviously the big three, they're playing more test matches, whereas teams like Sri Lanka, South Africa play just 12 test matches. And it's very difficult also, apart from the WTC cycle, like to get extra, test
Mm.
matches, like for them to conduct extra test series because of this cycle going on. So your thoughts on the fairness of this current WTC system right now?
Well, I think the Test cricket is better off having a World Test Championship rather than not having it. So I think fair, unfair really depends on which way you look at it. At- it's not perfect for sure. It's not the best formula, but I think at least we have something to build from, right? Like, and it was great to be at Lords to see South Africa win finally a World Championship, but for a team outside the big three to win the World Test Championship, and like, look, two of the three winners are New Zealand and South Africa, right? Australia won it
Yeah.
in the middle. So it kind of tells you that they can. It should be. I mean, it works in a way that those teams get an opportunity with the number of test matches they play. And look, again, it's the practicality and the feasibility of if these boards have the amount of money to spend on hosting test cricket. I mean, there's the other argument that probably the ICC can have a test match fund that, if not all the time, but if some teams want to borrow from to host this big series, they can do it. That could work as well in a way. But I'm happier with there being a World Test Championship and it resulting in something rather than not having it. Or so yeah, I mean, it'll iron itself out if people work together with the same goal in mind. So the two-tier system seems like it's inevitable it'll come in, but even with that, you can still look at it in a positive way.
And your thoughts on like ODI cricket dying, to be honest, like people are saying like the ODI World Cup will just be only for the ODI World Cup and they won't be playing many ODI matches, to be honest, like in the future. So your thoughts on like ODI cricket dying, because like ODI World Cup was like the World Cup was started with ODI
Yeah.
format, and the chances of them diminishing just because of the this championship and the 2020 World Cup is not a good scenario, especially with franchise cricket right now. 2020 cricket being playing for like almost the whole year. Like some league will be going on right now, especially IPL going to take up like 3 months, and then you have the PSL, CPL, whatever franchise tournament going on, and it's to see like ODI cricket non-existent right now, and probably in the future, like next 3 or 4 years, not going just going to be for the ODI World Cup, and not really sure about the future of ODI World Cup. So your thoughts in regards of the ODI format right now?
Yeah, I mean, it looks I mean, it looks worse than it is, I think, because eventually broadcasters decide the future of sport, right? And there is still a lot of financial value in ODI cricket, especially in the big countries, because if you think of it from a commercial point of view, there's 8 hours, most of which is on prime time television, like live sport and high quality live sport. So you do make a lot of money by hosting ODI cricket, like, or you get a lot of money from the broadcasters. So I don't think ODI cricket is going away anytime soon. And I don't mind ODI cricket. It's still it's a format that I grew up on, but also there's still like some unique nuances you get with one day cricket, which is fun in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think what they will have to do is probably add a little more relevance, and I don't know how they will do it, but to some of these bilateral series, like, so for example, when India come and play 3 ODIs, there'll be packed stadiums. There'll be a lot of interest around it, both in India and in Australia and other people places as well. But I think it's more that I don't think the health of ODI cricket. Maybe it's not obviously as thriving as it used to be back in the day, but I still do think it will have a place, because every time you go into a ODI World Cup, like whether it was 2019 or 2023, uh, which is around the time it's felt most threatened, the interest levels just come back, right? Like, so we've had the last two men's 50 over World Cups, and women's 50 over cricket is fabulous to watch. You know, we get almost there for another World Cup as well. So yeah, I think it's worse than it looks. It's not as bad. Don't worry.
But what about the franchise cricket, like the 2020 cricket? Do you think like that being ruling over, like especially with businesses going over the franchise 2020 cricket, do you think that's sort of like ruining cricket at the moment? Like the franchise models,
Mm.
like especially IPL taking 3 months of the calendar and then other leagues going on within the year. There's no sort of break in terms of like franchise cricket. There's some sort of franchise league going on in the year. What's your thought on that, especially with all the nations now going with franchise cricket at the moment, like leagues, and then cricketers also preferring money and franchise cricket over their team. Especially we've seen this with West Indies, especially Puran retiring. Not only just West Indies, some other nations as well. So your thoughts on that as well?
Well, if people paid me more money to do what I'm doing, I will accept that as well, right? Like that's just
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
should be. And I think, look, I know where you're coming from, and it's a very fair question. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
um, no, look, I don't think it's ruining anything. Like it's, if anything, it's more opportunities for players. And the my argument always has been, as a as someone who is a contracted, like an independent contractor like myself, if I have the right to work, write for one place, do radio for another place, do TV for someone else, so why shouldn't a player have that? Like, who am I to then say that no, 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 you should only focus on playing for your country? I mean, that's very old school thinking. And also, we don't have, like, see, for the longest time, that's
yeah,
how it was. Like, players' careers were decided and um, controlled by the boards, and by extension the fans and other people. Now
exactly.
players have the, like we spoke about Patirana. He's 22, but already imagine like the choices he has ahead of him. Or a Devol Brevis the other day made that famous 100 in Australia, but
Yeah,
he's already $1 million baby. Like, by the time he gets to 21, that's great. I think, why
yeah,
shouldn't they get that? Like, they've provided so much entertainment for all of us for so many years.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
but and I think cricket will find a way. Like, Test cricket is going nowhere. Like I said, one day cricket isn't where it is or where it was, but it'll still find its own way. And T20I bilaterals are ones that, like, at times you wonder, outside a World Cup cycle, what kind of plays. But because they're held in once every 2 years, they still make sense. So it's changed cricket for sure. I mean, some might say not for the good, but I think it's just, I'm all for player power. Like, they're the ones who make the sacrifices. They're the ones who put their bodies on the line. So if they have they have more control over how they want their career to go, it's a good thing. It's not that, like, there are fewer people turning their back on Test cricket than otherwise. So that is a good sign. And I'm talking about young players as well. So I think we yeah, I think it'll work itself out. But I don't think it's ruined anything, to be honest.
Yeah. Last question before we end it. Bharat, what's your favorite format out of the three? To be honest.
Oh, no, no,
Yeah,
it's a easy, like, so Test cricket will, like, not I'm not doing the usual thing of saying Test cricket is the pinnacle, but just because I love telling stories and I love talking. Test cricket just allows you to do that. Like, it's just an immersive experience. Even when you're just watching it, you can do different things while still watching it, and having a great day with, like, with someone or by yourself, or like me in the commentary box or in the media box. But I like the other two formats as well. Like, T20 cricket comes with its own benefits. You can be hungover in the morning and, like, sleep off the hangover and still be fresh to go cover a T20 match in the evening. So you can still have a good time the previous night. And it's nice and fun. Every T20 game is different to the other. One day cricket, it's so if you're coming from Test cricket to one day cricket, it's easy. Like, you talk about formats and going from one format to the other, right? But when you
yeah,
go from covering T20 cricket to one day cricket, it can feel at times, the first one you do, you feel like, whoa, it's going on forever.
yeah.
But then games pick up like pace. Yeah, but Test cricket for sure is the ultimate format.
Yeah. Just want to take one question before we end it, wrap it up quickly. Rohan says the next Fab Four. It's a good question.
um yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while. Like, for a while it was in my head. It was like, I mean, let's think of Shubman Gill being already there. Like, so he's not. So I'm thinking the next. I mean, he's young man, but I'm thinking anyone under 23 or under 24. Let's say, I mean, Jaiswal has to be there. I would think Jaiswal is already there. You'd say Harry Brook is in there as well. Um, I've wondered for a while about Australia. I mean, Cam Green ideally should be there,
Yeah,
but he just needs. Like the injury didn't help when he was away for Test cricket. Just when it felt like he'd hit his peak for that 100 in Wellington at number 4, but he batted well in the West Indies as the series came to an end.
Yeah.
So maybe he will end up there. Like, let's put it that way. So Cam Green is in there. And I'm going to go with Rachin Ravindra. So I think that
Okay.
should be, but like, like Brevis, now that he wants to play Test cricket as well with his skills and talent,
Mm.
he could easily break into that mix. So but in a way, it's good because with the previous Fab Four, if you want to call them that, from a
Yeah.
very young age, from the time Martin Crowe said they were the Fab Four, you kind of knew they were the Fab Four, and there were others who threatened to come in, and but
Yeah.
it was very clear. But now it's not that clear. So, and you can always argue, you can always put Shubman Gill in that mix as well, like so. And complete the four without Green or without Ravindra. So Jaiswal and Brook are already in there for me,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think Cam Green will get in there, and the other two would be oh no, and then Rachin Ravindra, or there could be someone like Gill if you want to put him there. Or
Kamindu could be there. There
not
has been
there
some.
yet. No, not of that. I thought he was getting there,
Yeah.
but he has to still score runs everywhere. Like that's just
Okay.
how it is. Like, yeah, I'm not saying you can argue Joe Root never made
Yeah.
100 in Australia. Not that. Like, but he needs to
Because I've
have
seen
like.
some posts like Kamindu can was been fixed in that next Fab Four. Like I've seen, like
Oh,
I
but
don't.
like, yeah, when you average
Yeah.
70 in Test cricket, people feel like
Yeah.
obliged to put you in there. But no,
Yeah.
I think he's got a long way to go. Like I said, even Cam Green is not a fixture in there yet. You think he
Yeah.
should be, but he's
Yeah.
not there yet. So yeah, like it's a good time to be a cricket fan. Let's put it that way.
Mm, exactly. Thank you so much once again, Bharat. It's been a long conversation,
No,
almost
no,
2 hours.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
No, no. When
And
I commit, boss. Like yeah, so that's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I just love to have conversations, and I just don't mind the time, to be honest. And if I have the time, I would want to talk. But thank you so much, Bharat, once again for accepting the invite and coming
No
in and
problem.
having this conversation. Yeah. So do subscribe the sports breakdown, like, comment, and share on it. And do follow Bharat Sundaresan obviously on X, on Instagram. Yeah, and especially read his articles on Cricbuzz. Once again, huge fan of mine. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his, and
I'm a
you know,
big fan of you as well. No, I am. I am. You said it right. No, no, thank you, and no, thank you for
yeah,
having me on. And yeah,
no
to
worries.
all of you listening, please follow Pawan, and he does such a good job. I've had a great time. So no, I mean, listen, subscribe, do all the right things that on all the platforms that you'll find the show on.
Yeah.
Because today you had to endure me, but I'm sure you'll have better guests from next time onwards.
No, no, no. You are probably like Jared Kimber. I'm planning to have a video with him also in the coming. It's very difficult to get Jared Kimber, by the way. I struggled for the last 3 years, but finally we managed to get a schedule and a video to like a topic to get, because it could be very demanding at times or whatever. But finally we got the
Yeah.
topic to talk about.
Well,
And
see, like, us mid
yeah,
carders, we're easy to get. The high profile ones, you have to work harder. Yeah.
yeah, but finally I managed to, and I'm hoping to do a video with him. So it's next week
Good.
coming, and hopefully I can upload that on my YouTube channel as soon as possible. But yeah, hope we can meet each other physical, to be honest, because I'm in Melbourne anytime. I hope like I can meet you somewhere in
For
MCG or
sure.
some.
I come to Melbourne
Yeah,
quite a bit. So, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That'll be fun.
hopefully in the Ashes. Hopefully I'm not bought the tickets. Last time I was there for the Australia India, but this time not bought the tickets for Ashes yet. But I hope I can at least get the day 2, day 3 quickly, because the day 1 is sold out. But I'll just check like third party tickets or somewhere. Getting the day 1 tickets this time. But yeah, hopefully the Boxing Day test, especially day 2, day 3, and hope I can go to other stadiums. Like you live in Adelaide, right? If I'm not mistaken, like permanently. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I hope I can at least go to Adelaide Oval or even Perth or somewhere to watch the Ashes, because
For
I just
sure.
love
Yeah.
the Ashes, to be honest. Yeah. But it's really great talking to you once again,
No
Bharat,
problem at
and
all.
hope,
Thank you so
hope I
much for
can
having
meet
me.
you someday as well, once
For
again
sure.
for some video or whatever. Anyways, yeah.
For
So thank
sure,
you so
brother.
much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, and see you in the next video.